Chapter 879. Xia Feng revealed his true colors and left ruthlessly. Then he led the yellow-robed old man away, leaving behind an embarrassed Qin Wu. Old Mr. Qin, there is no need to feel conflicted. In less than 7 days, everything will come to light. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and said something that Qin Wu could not understand. Now, Xiao Chen was 100% sure of his guess. How could Xiao Chen tolerate such an ambitious person? After old Qin left in a daze, Xiao Chen stood up and his eyes turned cold. This Xia Feng definitely did not expect that I would dare to reject Huang Pu Feng's orders. Within 7 days, he will definitely inform the corpse race that there is a change in the plan. At that time, I will be able to catch him easily. I will kill this scoundrel. Otherwise, I will not be able to fight to the death with the corpse race. Think about it. If you focused on fighting at the front, and someone informed the enemy of your movements, what kind of terrifying scene would that be? However, before that, it is time to subdue and suppress the death throne. Now that my immortal will of thunder has reached 40% comprehension, and I have advanced to martial sage, what is there to fear? A light flashed on Xiao Chen's forehead, and a black light came out. This was one of the 7 thrones, the death throne. Massacre, destruction, grief, pain, despair, death. The 7 thrones looked like they were all negative emotions. However, when one thought about it, the cycle from massacre to death was a cycle from life to death. The state of cycle definitely surpassed all the states in the world. It was on the same level as the state of primal chaos formed by Chu Chaoyun's state of light and darkness. They both pointed to the origin of the great Tao. However, it was still too far away now. Xiao Chen had only collected 2 thrones. He could not bite off more than he could chew. He had to subdue the death throne first and be able to circulate death qi. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense flew out of his forehead with the purple lightning talisman. With a flash of electric light, it entered the throne. A boundless sea of death qi appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. With the experience of subduing the massacre throne, the purple lightning talisman hovered above Xiao Chen's head as it flew towards the sea of death. No matter how vast the sea was, it would not go on forever. Occasionally, black tentacles leaped out of the sea and swung at the body formed by Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. However, before they could touch it, the electric saber qi from the talisman shattered them. This did not stop Xiao Chen from advancing. The further he went, the denser the death qi became. The talisman above him sent out strands of electric light, encasing Xiao Chen and preventing him from being to it. Junior, you finally came out. Just as Xiao Chen flew to the end, the death qi below surged and surged back, forming a 1-kilometer-tall demonic figure that looked down at Xiao Chen from above. Xiao Chen's figure wavered, and his spiritual sense body became 1,000-fold larger. He looked at that demonic figure and said, "I should be the one saying that. You finally could not resist coming out. It looks like the deterrence of my purple lightning talisman is rather strong." Naturally, this demonic figure was the item spirit of the death throne. However, the evil king was already dead, and this item spirit had mutated long ago. It was now an evil spirit. Humph! It is just the immortal will of thunder. How much harm do you think it can do to me? I'll give you a chance to become stronger. Sign an equal contract with me and help me recover my strength. I will provide you with death qi. The demonic figure did not even look at the purple lightning talisman. It did not care at all as it made a condition for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen found it funny. This demonic figure really knows how to act. It will not shed a tear until it sees the coffin. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pointed. Without any warning, the purple lightning talisman flew towards the demonic figure. Instantly, a flickering electric light crackled within the demonic figure. The demonic figure's body shrank continuously as it howled in pain. Finally, it shrank back to its normal human form and rolled around on the surface of the sea. In the past, Xiao Chen would not have been confident of dealing with this evil spirit with just 10% of the immortal will of thunder. Now, there was nothing to fear. If this evil spirit was truly powerful, Wang Can would not have been defeated by it back then. It could only be said that this evil spirit was just bluffing. The demonic figure could not use much of the Death Throne's energy. Like the Massacre Throne's evil spirit, it was still accumulating energy. Stop. I'll sign a contract with you and be your servant forever. I know all the secrets of the Death Throne. I can help you ascend to the Death Great Tao and surpass all the martial emperors of the corpse race and ghost race. The demonic figure could not help begging for mercy amid the pain. As an evil spirit, you should not exist in this world in the first place. Go in peace. What I seek is the Tao of reincarnation, my own ultimate saber Tao. I do not care about the Death Great Tao. How could Shao Chun believe the words of such an evil being? Furthermore, he did not care about the Death Great Tao either. Shao Chun subdued the 7 thrones and grasped the state of cycle. His ultimate goal was to serve his saber Tao. The Tao of reincarnation was also created by someone before him. Shao Chen's martial Tao was a path that no one had ever taken before or since. He embraced many schools of thought, using his body as a saber and his thoughts as a saber, creating a supreme saber Tao. Amid the demonic figure's dissatisfied cries, Shao Chun used the will of thunder to refine it. Then he placed his spiritual mark on the Death Throne, officially subduing 2 of the 7 thrones. Shao Chen's spiritual sense and the purple lightning talisman returned to his body. Then he withdrew the Death Throne into his sea of consciousness. The 2 thrones, one red and one black, slowly spun in his sea of consciousness. The purple lightning talisman was like an aloof king, looking down on the 2 thrones. With a thought, black death chi came out of Shao Chen's fingertips. He smiled in satisfaction and said, I should be able to execute the ancient underworld river wave palm now. The Death Great Tao is really miraculous. Unexpectedly, the death chi in the world can bring out such great might. Shao Chun closed his eyes and carefully comprehended, merging several mysteries of the Death Great Tao with his saber Tao. By the time Shao Chun opened his eyes, the sky had already turned dark. He had spent an entire day on this. However, he had gained a lot. If he ran into the corpse race's people, he would definitely be able to give them a pleasant surprise. After looking at the sky outside the window, Shao Chun put on the heavenly sea cloak and sneaked out. When he arrived above the palace where Xia Feng resided, he activated the cloak's special effect, completely concealing himself. For the entire night, everything in the palace was normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Every day, Xia Feng would use his flying sword to report the situation on the island to Huangpu Feng's headquarters. Shao Chun was very patient. He was also very confident of his guesses. The other party would definitely give himself away. In the end, after 3 days, Xia Feng did not make any strange movements. Just as Shao Chen's patience was about to run out, Shao Chun finally discovered something wrong on the 7th day. As usual, Xia Feng sent out a flying sword message. 2 hours later, Xia Feng strangely sent out another flying sword message. 2 hours later, another strange flying sword flew out. Shao Chun looked carefully. That flying sword flew in the direction of the corpse race's main camp. However, after flying halfway, it quickly turned around and headed for the corpse race's black-patterned island. What a fellow! He finally gave himself away. Shao Chun smiled faintly and revealed himself. Then he quickly chased after the flying sword. The flying sword moved strangely fast, like a beam of light. Even when Shao Chun executed his Thunder Dragon steps to its limits, he could not catch up. In the end, he used the cloak's acceleration function and barely managed to catch the flying sword. Shao Chun sent in his spiritual sense, and information entered his mind. That fellow is very cautious. He is starting to suspect me. Change of plans. Don't touch him for now. However, Bai Wuxue is a little restless. He wants to lead the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island to launch a surprise attack on your flank, using lightning-quick means to kill everyone on the island. You can surround them and take down Black Monarch Island in one go. After that, you can break through the 3rd line of defense. Remember, after we loot Dragonwood Star, according to our agreement, you have to give me half of the resources. Shao Chun toyed with the metal sword in his hand. His expression turned somewhat grave. Xia Feng was the commander of the 3rd line of defense. Unexpectedly, he had become the enemy's spy. However, when Shao Chun thought about the reward, he felt that it was indeed tempting. There was an entire resource star's worth of wealth. Now that Xiao Qin had nothing on him, he could not help feeling tempted. After putting away the metal sword, Xiao Qin turned around and barged into Qin Wu's residence, startling the other party, who was cultivating. When Xiao Qin explained his purpose for coming and showed Qin Wu the information on the metal sword, Qin Wu flew into a rage. Qin Wu flew into a rage and went completely berserk. He cursed, "I was wondering why the first 2 defensive lines were broken so quickly. 2 resource planets were plundered in succession. It can be said that the corpse race's surprise attack was effective." However, not only did this dragonwood star take in the remaining experts of the first 2 resource stars, but it also made preparations. It should not have suffered such a miserable defeat. It turns out that this is because of this traitorous dog. The impression that this old man before Xiao Qin gave him was that he was the kind of person who tried to smooth things over. Xiao Qin had not expected this old man to have such a huge reaction after learning the truth. "Xiao Qin, it looks like he purposely targeted you from the start. Come, let's go and kill this traitor now." Qin Wu did not want to drag things out, so he immediately pulled Xiao Qin over to kill this spy. Xiao Qin originally thought so as well. However, when he saw the information on the flying sword, he changed his mind. "Elder Qin, you should know how to send a flying sword, right?" Qin Wu asked doubtfully. "I do." Xiao Qin narrowed his eyes and smiled. "In that case, let's not bother with this traitor for now. Just send this metal sword over in its original form. We can beat him at his own game." "Beat him at his own game?" Qin Wu asked with some doubt. "How do we beat him at his own game?" Xiao Qin smiled faintly and unfurled the sea chart. The second line of defense consisted of 3 islands and 10 odd subsidiary islands. In the past few days, the junior generation disciples of the Haotian sect had been reaping the fruits of their labor on these subsidiary islands. They harassed the Haotian sect and left after 1 round of attacks. Every time, they would reap a large harvest. However, in the end, these subsidiary islands did not have any main forces. They did not have any superior-grade martial sages guarding them. The corpse race still sent people there mainly to collect as many resources as possible. The ordinary people on the subsidiary islands needed someone to supervise and make arrangements. Only then would they be able to continue mining and gathering spirit herbs at the bottom of the sea. Chapter 880. In particular, whether it was the corpse race or the other races, they would not take the initiative to attack mortals in this kind of battle on a resource star. Otherwise, it would be a great taboo. The mortals also knew this logic. No matter who occupied the resource planet, their treatment and rewards would not change. They would not resist their orders too much. In any case, they were the same as everyone else. The basic remuneration would not be reduced. It was just that the resources that they dug up would be delivered to a different target. Right now, the main force of the corpse race is concentrated on Black Patterned Island. There are probably no less than 20 superior-grade martial sages there. There are also Long Fei and Wei Hua, 2 demonic geniuses who far surpass regular superior-grade martial sages. A large number of Saint-tier demonic corpses are probably on this island as well. "Old sir, what do you think about the strength of the corpse race?" Qin Wu muttered. "They are very strong. Dragonwood Star has taken in the cultivators of the first 2 resource stars. Right now, there are only 30 superior-grade martial sages. Black Monarch Island, White Monarch Island, and Azure Monarch Island have 3 superior-grade martial sages each. The rest are in the main camp." Xiao Qin raised his eyebrows and a smile appeared on his delicate face. He said, "They are indeed very strong. Not to mention that the corpse race has mastered the secret method of refining demonic corpses. The large number of corpses in battle will also increase their strength. The more they fight, the stronger they become. But to refine a devil corpse, they need a corpse refining pool. It is not easy to build a corpse refining pool, and it requires a lot of effort and time. As long as this corpse refining pool is destroyed, their devil corpse will die, and when the devil corpse is killed, they will lose even if they don't lose. The strength of the corpse race lay in the demonic corpses. Without the demonic corpses, with their numbers, no matter how powerful they were, they could only be massacred when faced with human cultivators who outnumbered them by several times. Qin Wu said, "I know this. However, the corpse refining pool has already been moved to Black Patterned Island. There will definitely be strong soldiers guarding it. Destroying this corpse refining pool is easier said than done." Xiao Chen pointed to Black Monarch Island and smiled. Now the opportunity is here. When Long Fei and the others found out that Bai Wuxue wanted to kill the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island, they will definitely lay a heavy ambush. We will also have to mobilize many of the forces on Black Patterned Island to fight a beautiful victory. The most important thing is that if I want to suppress Bai Wuxue easily, Long Fei and Wei Hua will have to work together. Just one of them will be enough for Bai Wuxue to leave. That will be my chance. Qin Wu's eyes lit up. He felt that this plan was feasible. With Xiao Chen's strength, without Long Fei and Wei Hua holding him back, he should be able to infiltrate Black Patterned Island and leave easily. However, in the blink of an eye, he started to worry. He said, "This is not appropriate. Watching Bai Wuxue and the others jump into the fire pit is a little. Once the corpse refining pool is broken, it is only a matter of time before the corpse race falls. The situation of Dragon with Star can be reversed in an instant." As for Bai Wuxue, he clearly came up with such a risky move for the sake of military merits. He only has himself to blame. However, don't worry. Bai Wuxue and Shimin Bao will not die. Once the corpse refining pool can no longer hold out, Long Fei and Wei Hua will definitely return to save them. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Qin Wu considered the big picture for a long time. Finally, he made up his mind and said, "In that case, we will do as you say. Brother Xiao Chen has done a great job by finding the traitor. If we can break the corpse refining pool, it will be another great job. I will definitely report this to the higher-ups. At that time, there will definitely be military merits. It might even be possible for me to be conferred a marquis." Breaking the corpse refining pool was equivalent to resolving the crisis of a resource star. In terms of practical use, it would be much more useful than killing many martial sages. The military merits would definitely be high. After Qin Wu finished speaking, he formed hand seals, and the iron sword flew back to Black Patterned Island. As Qin Wu watched the iron sword fly away, his expression remained grave. He said, "Even if there are no peak demonic geniuses like Long Fei and Wei Hua near the corpse refining pool, there will be plenty of older generation superior grade martial sages. The danger of this trip will not be low. Take care." Naturally, Xiao Chen knew how dangerous it was. However, as long as Long Fei and Wei Hua were not around, given his current strength, no matter how many people surrounded him, he would still be able to leave. This Xiao Chen is really bold. In the end, whether this plan succeeds or not will depend on his personal strength. Otherwise, not only will he not be able to destroy the corpse refining island, but he will also lose the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island. As Qin Wu watched Xiao Chen leave, he felt somewhat unfathomable. Exactly how strong was this person? After Xiao Chen returned, he immediately gathered Jin Lin, Xiao Xian, and Lu Ku. He instructed the three of them to lead a team tomorrow and carry out a big operation. After Jin Lin heard this, he could not help but smile joyfully. "We are finally going to attack an island with a superior grade martial sage. With this, our military merits will soar." Over the past few days, the three of them had not only gained a bountiful harvest, but their strength had also increased significantly. They had successfully broken through to medial grade martial sage. In terms of cultivation, they were even higher than Xiao Chen. However, even though they were medial grade martial sages, when the three looked at Xiao Chen, they still found him unfathomable and unfathomable. They could not underestimate him at all. Right now, Xiao Chen did not focus on cultivating. His cultivation remained at peak inferior grade martial sage. He focused most of his attention on his saber Dao. As long as he comprehended his saber Dao, it would not be difficult for him to raise his cultivation. Go ahead and make your move tomorrow. There is no need to run after fighting like the past few days. The other party will not send any reinforcements. Your mission is to kill the superior grade martial sage on the island. Do not let him leave alive. We promise to do it, the three answered in unison. After giving a few more instructions, Xiao Chen dismissed the three. Then he placed a jade strip containing a star chart in his hand and carefully sized up the resource stars in the nearby starry domains. Xiao Chen's gaze fell on the 2 resource stars that the corpse god palace had already occupied. A bright light flashed in his eyes as he continued to look up to the resource stars that the corpse race controlled. Then he entered deep thought. As Xiao Chen made arrangements, Wei Hua and the others, who received the message by the flying sword, rejoiced. Wei Hua held the metal sword in his hand and smiled. By Wu Xue, what a good fellow. He is very bold. Unexpectedly, he wants to wipe out all the corpse race troops on the islands to the side. What a fool. Right now, the 2 armies are locked in a stalemate. Whoever makes a mistake will be consigned to eternal damnation. Since he wants to play big, I will play big with him. Brother Long Fei, go and inform the young master of the Muddy Sky Gate. Tomorrow we will destroy Bai Wuxue and break the 3rd line of defense. Then we will attack the Bushan Palace's main camp and take down Dragonwood Star in one fell swoop. Long Fei said, the Bushan Palace's main camp is not that easy to break. Even if we work with the Muddy Sky Gate, we will not be able to take it down quickly. How about this? Tomorrow, you and Wang can lead 2/3 of the cultivators on the island to lay in ambush. Brother Kuei-do and I, as well as the remaining people, will guard the corpse refining pool. With the corpse refining pool, there will be an endless supply of monarch-grade demonic corpses. We will always hold the advantage. That way, we will be more confident. Wei Hua thought for a while before saying, very well, let's do that, then. With the 2 of you and a few seniors, the corpse refining pool will not have to worry about any small fries coming to cause trouble. 2/3 of the corpse race cultivators will be sufficient to easily destroy Bai Wushue's group and break the 3rd line of defense, forming an encirclement with the Muddy Sky Gate. The situation of Dragonwood Star will no longer be able to change. At dusk the next day, Bai Wuxue had already organized a team of 100 people on Black Monarch Island. Although there were not many of them, they were all elites. They were all medial-grade martial sages. The 2 superior-grade martial sage vice island masters of Black Monarch Island were also persuaded by Bai Wuxue to join the group. These vice island masters were confident in their own strength. As long as they did not get too heavily surrounded, they should be able to escape. Furthermore, Bai Wuxue contributed a large number of astral coins, so they agreed to take the risk with him. Bai Wuxue stretched out his hand, and a pearl with a cold light on it appeared in his palm. Shimin Bao's eyes lit up as he said, this is the thing that can allow the 50 of us to sneak into the wing island of Black Patterned Island without anyone noticing? This is the snow race's secret treasure, the Heavenly Ice Pearl. It can execute water evasion. Don't worry. We will definitely be able to sneak in without anyone noticing. Shimin Bao still felt somewhat worried. He said, I still feel that this trip is too risky. If we are all wiped out, Black Monarch Island's defenses will be finished. No matter how many inferior-grade martial sages and half-sages there are, they will just be decorations. Bai Wuxue smiled confidently and said, how can that be possible? We will end this quickly. At most, we will be able to finish it in an hour. After all, there are 3 superior-grade martial sages on that island. That is 30,000 military merits. Adding in the other corpse race cultivators on the island, after we kill them all, we will be able to take the lead over Xiaoqin. The Heavenly Ice Pearl gave off a beam of light and sucked in the group. Then, it quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. The true chaos of the peaceful Dragonwood Star was about to begin. Xiao Chen, Wei Hua, and Bai Wuxue all felt that their plan was foolproof, that nothing could go wrong. Bai Wushue's target island was called Heavenly Wind Island. The most famous resource on the island was the Heavenly Wind Grass, a spirit herb containing wind-attributed energy. Although it was not as precious as the black-patterned gold, there was a lot of it. Furthermore, there were also crystal mines of various attributes. The corpse race had stationed many people on the island as well. Naturally, the strongest were the 3 superior-grade martial sages. The rest were mostly inferior-grade martial sages and half-sages. There were only about 10 medial-grade martial sages. After all, this was not the main camp of the corpse race. There was no need to station too many troops here. This was the information that Bai Wuxue obtained. He had personally investigated and verified it repeatedly. Based on the strength of the two sides, his group of elite martial sages would definitely be able to kill all the corpse race cultivators on the island within 2 hours. Not only would this raise the morale of the Bushan Palace's side, but his military merits would also surpass Xiao Chen's. Under the night sky, a huge ice pearl silently leaped out of the water on a beach of Heavenly Wind Island. After that, there was a flash of light, and Bai Wuxue put away the Heavenly Ice Pearl. The elite martial sages who sneak-attacked Heavenly Wind Island all revealed themselves. Shimen Bao looked around and looked at the quiet Heavenly Wind Island. He smiled and said, "Brother Bai's Heavenly Ice Pearl is indeed powerful. We managed to come here without anyone noticing. What should we do now?" "What should we do?" Bai Wuxue revealed a carefree smile and said, "Do I still need to say it? Naturally, we will kill all the Buddhas we meet. If we meet gods, we will kill gods. We will sweep through Heavenly Wind Island and kill them all, establishing supreme military merits." Chapter 881. Bai Wuxue's words immediately stirred up the hot-bloodedness of the people behind him. They all activated the heavenly sage laws in their bodies and charged forward together with Bai Wuxue. Under the lead of the 20 elite martial sages, the patrolling demonic corpses in the way crumbled upon contact. Bai Wuxue led the charge. He could not last even one exchange with his palm. The demonic corpses fell in droves. When they arrived at the center of the island, Bai Wuxue suddenly stopped. His expression changed slightly as he said, "What's wrong?" Along the way, all we saw were corpse race demonic corpses. We did not see a single corpse race cultivator. The others only cared about killing. Furthermore, Bai Wuxue's earlier words provoked them, so they did not feel any burden in their hearts. They all thought that this Heavenly Wind Island was already a dead island. Now that they heard Bai Wuxue's reminder, they could not help but think about it. This was indeed the case. That's right. Why is there not a single corpse race cultivator? Don't tell me they're all hiding? That would be too boring. Bai Wuxue thought for a while. Then his expression changed. He said, "Quick, let's go. We have been exposed. We have fallen into an ambush." Seeing that the others had not reacted yet, Bai Wuxue got up and retreated without any care, deciding to leave first. Along the way, they did not see a single corpse race cultivator, letting them kill the demonic corpses. Clearly, the corpse race wanted to lure them to the center of the island. If this was not an ambush, what else could it be? However, Bai Wuxue could not figure out how the news got out. Furthermore, the corpse race even made arrangements in advance. "Bai Wuxue, why are you thinking of leaving now? Weren't you saying earlier that you were going to sweep through Heavenly Wind Island?" A figure appeared in front of Bai Wuxue in the night sky, blocking his way. Death Qi surged out as this person threw a palm strike at the retreating Bai Wuxue. The underworld fire sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua? When Bai Wuxue saw the appearance of this person, his heart could not help but sink. This time, things might have gone too far. Unexpectedly, even Wei Hua came. The two's palm strikes collided, and they both moved back 100 steps. Bai Wuxue did not have time to scatter the death qi circulating in his palm. Another person appeared in the air. Without giving Bai Wuxue a chance to catch his breath, this person sent him back to the Black Monarch Island group with a palm strike. The person who attacked was Wang Can, who had come with Wei Hua. Although Wang Can was weaker than Bai Wuxue, he was more than enough to work with Wei Hua. Peng, 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 the luminous stones rose into the air, and the bright light exploded bit by bit, illuminating the entire sky, making it as bright as daytime. Xiao Chen saw 4 superior-grade martial sages leading large groups of corpse race cultivators, medial-grade martial sages, inferior-grade martial sages, and horrifying demonic corpses surrounding the group. In the sky, there were 3 king-grade warships of the corpse race. All of them were refined from the corpses of powerful flood dragons. Their mouths contained a terrifying death qi, and their blood-red eyes were incomparably frightening. When the two Vice Island Masters of Black Monarch Island, Bai Wuxue, Shimin Bao, and the group of peak medial grade martial sages, saw this lineup, they were all frightened silly. Their faces turned ashen. This lineup was practically the entire corpse race army moving out. What's going on? Wasn't this a sneak attack? How did we end up like turtles in a jar? Bai Wuxue, what's going on? The two Vice Island Masters felt very anxious. They were both startled and furious. With such a lineup, how could they survive? Bai Wuxue had done them in. Horror filled Shimin Bao's eyes. At this moment he had completely lost his mind. He said in a trembling voice, Bai Wuxue, what should we do? There are so many corpse race experts and 3 king-grade warships. We are dead for sure. With Emperor Wu holding down the fort, the Shimin clan would definitely have some means to protect themselves. However, Shimin Bao thought to himself that in such a situation, the secret treasures they had to protect themselves would not be enough. Bai Wuxue was someone who had seen such a scene before. After a flustered expression, he calmed down and said, Your great-grandfather is Emperor Wu after all. This Wei Hua will not kill you. At most, he will imprison you and extort some money from your great-grandfather. When Shimin Bao heard this, his expression could not help but turn even more unsightly. He was an outstanding talent, yet he had become a prisoner of the battlefield. To him, this was even worse than death. As for the two Vice Island Masters, if this Bai is not wrong, the Black Monarch Island's Island Master leaked the news. You can't blame this Bai for this. The faces of the two Vice Island Masters sank. They said in unison, That's impossible. The Island Master's son died at the hands of the corpse race. How could he betray the enemy? He was the first to approve of your plan. Bai Wuxue thought, could there be an even higher-ranked spy? However, after thinking about it, he revealed a bitter smile. So what if it was? So what if it wasn't? Today he, Bai Wuxue, was at his wit's end. Cripple yourselves and surrender. I will give you a chance to live. Otherwise, all of you will die, consigned to eternal damnation, Wei Hua said sullenly with a grave and stern expression. Wei Hua's expression turned grave and stern as he spoke in a deep voice. Immediately, all the corpse race cultivators shouted, Cripple yourselves and surrender yourselves. Their voices were like the waves of the sea, resounding in all directions without end. Before these voices, the morale of the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island plummeted. They felt that there was no way out. They did not even have the courage to fight. Become a prisoner? When Bai Wuxue thought of this, he revealed a determined expression. If he really became a prisoner, then he would just end his own life. Leave from the east. I'll make an opening for you. Whether you can escape or not will depend on your luck. Bai Wuxue glanced at the 4 superior-grade martial sages guarding the east. However, he did not feel confident at all. Under the illumination of the nightlight stones, the island was as bright as day. Wei Hua could clearly see the expressions of this group of people. They all had expressions of victory in their grasp. After killing this group of people, Black Monarch Island would be completely defenseless. After that, they would launch a night attack and break through the final line of defense. Then, together with the Muddy Sky Gate, they would launch a pincer attack on Bushin Palace's headquarters. With the corpse refining pool, Dragonwood Star's fall was only a matter of time. As Wei Hua expected, everything was within his control. He felt very smug as he waved his hand, preparing to give the order to attack. The strong elite team was at least a medial-grade martial sage. They should have boundless combat prowess and be able to hold their own. Now that they had lost all their fighting spirit, their faces ashen. They felt that there was nothing they could do to reverse the situation. No matter what, they could not avoid death. Rumble! Just at this moment, startling cries rang out from the east of the encirclement. A team of 20 people, led by a white figure, charged forward. Unexpectedly, no one in the corpse race could stop them. Under the light of the nightlight stones, that white figure looked very bright. When he attacked, the hum of a powerful saber resounded. His entire body radiated a sharp light, and a purple lightning talisman floated above his head. 4 beams of golden light flowed on the lightning talisman. Occasionally, It released beams of golden light. No one could stop him for even a moment. Behind him were 20-odd youths of the younger generation. Compared to Bai Wushue's elite team, they were much weaker. However, all of them were full of fighting spirit. No matter who it was, they attacked ferociously, not showing any intention of retreating. They burst forth with startling combat prowess. Under the lead of that white figure, this team miraculously tore a hole in the encirclement in an instant. Shao Chen knocked back 4 superior-grade martial sages with one punch, one after another. He did not give them a chance to work together at all. As their hair fluttered, their white robes were dyed red with blood. "Brother Wei Hua, it's been 2 years. We meet again." The myriad heaven divine fists distant legend merged vital chi, magic energy, and quintessence to knock back a superior-grade martial sage of the corpse race. Shao Chen stood firmly and looked calmly at the underworld fire sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua. Sagely music lingered in all directions, singing the legends of Shao Chen. As the golden light shone down, Shao Chen looked like a celestial being in the night sky, causing everyone to look up at him in amazement. Wei Hua's thoughts turned chaotic for a moment. Why did Shao Chen come to this heavenly wind island at this time? Wei Hua was not the only one who could not figure it out. Bai Wushue and the others, who originally thought that they could not reverse the situation, were shocked when they saw Shao Chen, who was like a divine soldier descending from heaven. Bai Wushue Shimin Bao, if you do not leave now, when will you? When Shao Chen saw the stunned Bai Wushue, Shimin Bao, and the elite martial sages, he could not help but shout, his voice booming like thunder. The group of people seemed to wake up from a dream. They quickly headed in Shao Chen's direction, using their clones to charge over. Wei Hua reacted. His expression turned frosty as he said coldly, "Good timing. We can deal with them all in one go. All corpse race cultivators, heed my orders. Surround them and kill them all. Do not leave a single one alive." Deal with them all in one go? Naturally, the people that I, Shao Chen, want to save cannot be left behind. Let's see how you, Wei Hua, are going to deal with them all in one go. Shao Chen fought the 4 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race alone. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out the Dragon's Gate's warship. Hao Tian's sect disciples, board the Dragon's Gate's warship. Jin Lin, Shao Xian, and Lu Ku, the 3 of you drive the warship to receive them. I will bring up the rear. Looking at the dense, tide-like corpse race army closing in from all directions, Shao Chen felt a chill run down his spine. Shao Chen's white robes fluttered as he stood firmly on high ground. His heart was calm and his thoughts were clear. Jin Lin's group of 3 was very familiar with the Dragon's Gate's warship. When they came to Dragonwood Star, a group of curious juniors had turned the Dragon's Gate's warship upside down. The warship flew quickly, instantly pushing through the crowd and arriving before Bai Wushue and the others. When these people saw the Dragon's Gate's warship, they rejoiced and leaped onto it. Seeing that all 20 people had leaped onto the warship, Jin Lin immediately controlled the Dragon's Gate's warship to soar into the sky. However, 3 corpse race king-grade warships blocked it. Shao Xian, control the cannons and the propulsion arrows. The rest of you, do your best to maintain the Dragon's Gate's warship's protective barrier. Come and play with these 3 stinky dragons. Let's show them what it means to suppress a group of kings. Jin Lin laughed loudly. He did not fear the 3 corpse race king-grade warships blocking his way. The other Haotian sect disciples on the warship also ran around enthusiastically. When Bai Wushue and the others saw this scene, they all felt deeply confused. How could this group of people have such high morale? When Shao Chen, who was on the ground, saw the Dragon's Gate's warship rise into the air, he smiled faintly and relaxed, focusing on the situation before him. Chapter 882. The well-trained corpse race cultivators controlled the demonic corpses, surrounding Shao Chen in layers. The 16 superior-grade martial sages in the center worked together to attack Shao Chen. Such a situation was extremely dangerous. Even if a Grandmaster-level martial sage were here, he would not have a good time. However, Shao Chen already knew when to advance and when to retreat. The battle between the 16 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race and Xiao Chen covered a large area. The corpse race cultivators outside surrounded the battlefield and could not interfere. As Xiao Chen moved around the 16 superior-grade martial sages, there was no surprise in his eyes. He had expected such a situation long ago. Xiao Chen did not need to deal with all the corpse race cultivators. He only needed to deal with these 16 superior-grade martial sages. How could an outsider dare to interfere in such a huge battle? The shock waves alone could crush them into powder. This was also the reason why Xiao Chen dared to cut off his escape route. Wei Hua and Wang Can stood side by side in the air. As they watched Xiao Chen deal with the 16 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race, they were somewhat astonished. Wang Can exclaimed in shock, "This Xiao Chen's movement technique is really horrifying. Not only is he extremely fast, but he also has perfect control over his agility. No matter how fast he is, he can stop at will and change at will. It looks like he is fighting 16 superior-grade martial sages, but in reality he is fighting one person at a time." Wei Hua's gaze was very sharp. When he saw the black cloak that Xiao Chen wore after the battle started, he said, "The problem should be with that black cloak. Although that thing is not a king-grade secret treasure, I feel that it is more practical than several king-grade secret treasures. However, no matter how good a secret treasure is, Xiao Chen will die for sure today. Unexpectedly, he is extremely bold, daring to block our corpse race army alone. Does he really think that he is a grandmaster-level martial sage?" Wei Hua's tone turned cold as he spoke emotionlessly. He secretly stored up power, preparing to attack at any moment to deal a fatal blow to Xiao Chen. As Xiao Chen moved around the 16 superior-grade martial sages, he quickly gained a clear understanding of their strength. Xiao Chen looked around and left behind an afterimage. In an instant, he arrived before the weakest corpse race martial sage of the 16. 3 or 4 attacks hit the afterimage in an instant. The afterimage only stayed for a moment before it was completely shattered. It was this moment that gave Xiao Chen a chance to survive. Xiao Chen circulated his rank 3 sage body and took 4 or 5 attacks head-on. Then, he punched out and executed deities descending. Light shone from his body as his aura soared. With a single punch, tens of thousands of treasured sabers buzzed in the air. The saber intent was unparalleled. Waves of blade qi surged out from the tip of Xiao Chen's fist. The man's right sleeve was shredded into pieces as his flesh and blood flew out bit by bit. Under the sharp blade qi, the man's right arm was soon reduced to a skeleton. Kasi. Electricity exploded, and the skeleton shattered. Xiao Chen's punch, which was 10 times his combat prowess, directly shattered the man's right arm. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pulled. As the other party screamed miserably, he grabbed the other party's left wrist. Strands of electric energy were like sharp knives as they surged into the other party's body, slicing through it layer by layer. With a gentle spin, Xiao Chen sent this corpse race cultivator flying. The surrounding superior-grade martial sages did not dare to touch him for fear of injuring him, leaving a large space for Xiao Chen. Wei Hua catch. A strong wind blew, and Xiao Chen danced around wildly. Suddenly he shouted and tossed this corpse race martial sage's body like a cannonball towards Wei Hua, who was watching the show in the air. Wei Hua had been storing up qi all along, preparing to kill Xiao Chen when he revealed an opening. How could he have expected Xiao Chen to do this? Wei Hua did not know whether to catch it or not. In the end, he clenched his teeth and decided to catch it. Otherwise, if he did not care about the life or death of the person flying over in front of so many corpse race cultivators, it would be too disappointing. Wei Hua's face sank and he stretched out his hands. In an instant, he firmly grabbed the corpse race martial sage flying over. A strong wind blew over, making it difficult for Wei Hua to open his eyes. He thought to himself, what a strong force, at least 1,000 tons of force. Bang! Just as Wei Hua thought this, the body of the corpse race cultivator in his hand suddenly exploded. Thousands upon thousands of electric saber qi containing a vast and pure saber intent scattered in all directions. The light was very dazzling, immediately outshining the light of the nightlight stone. Wei Hua, who was in the middle of it, could not dodge in time. The explosion knocked him back and he vomited blood. Wang Can, who was standing beside Wei Hua, was not in a much better state. The saber chi covered his entire body in wounds. If not for the secret treasure inner vest protecting them, they might have died from being caught off guard. Xiao Chen laughed loudly and said, "Brother Wei Hua, you are very skilled. Unexpectedly, you caught it so accurately. This Xiao is in awe." Xiao Chen leaped up and soared into the air. Immediately, 3 or 4 superior-grade martial sages flew over and blocked his path. A few superior-grade martial sages flanked him, working together to prevent him from escaping to the sides. In the blink of an eye, these superior-grade martial sages showed great tacit understanding as they surrounded Xiao Chen again. However, this time, Xiao Chen did not intend to continue fighting. The magic energy in his sea of consciousness surged and drained rapidly. Xiao Chen suddenly looked up. Suddenly, the superior-grade martial sage in front of him felt like thousands of sabers pierced through his body, riddled with holes and dying without a complete corpse. He was completely frightened silly. When that superior-grade martial sage recovered his wits, he could not help but rub his body and mutter to himself, confusing the others. "Elder Chiu, be careful." The others quickly shouted. How could they be distracted at this moment? Xiao Chen did not slow down at all as he soared into the air. The corpse race old man with the family name Chiu was in a daze. He could not tell the difference between life and death. That earlier feeling of death was simply too real. Xiao Chen kicked, and a saber light flashed. The head of the old man with the family name Chiu immediately flew off. The old man with the family name Chiu had only one thought in his mind. This time, he is really dead. 2 bright purple skulls appeared on Xiao Chen's military merit medallion. He easily obtained 20,000 military merits. The encirclement also broke in an instant. The sky was high, and there was no one left to block Xiao Chen. Kasi. The monarch-grade demonic corpses in the way did not even need Xiao Chen to make a move. Xiao Chen's strong physical body smashed them into smithereens. Xiao Chen charged forward, boundlessly ferocious. After killing his way out of the encirclement, before he could rest for a moment, a figure descended from the sky. Death Chi surged in his hand and formed an underworld river heading for Xiao Chen. It was Wang Can. He had been waiting for Xiao Chen to exhaust himself. He sent out an ancient underworld river wave palm at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and activated the death throne in his sea of consciousness. He circulated Death Chi and sent out an ancient underworld river wave palm as well. However, this ancient underworld river wave palm had an additional sharpness to it. An unparalleled saber intent was sharper and unblockable. Bang! 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 There were 3 consecutive explosions. Wang Can's death river broke in half by Xiao Chen's death river, disappearing into nothingness. He disappeared into nothingness. Before he could react, he was struck by the netherworld river. Wang Can vomited a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with extreme shock. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen also knew this ancient underworld river wave palm. Furthermore, it was stronger than his. The death throne. I subdued the death throne. This thought appeared in Wang Can's mind. Suddenly, he felt something tighten around his wrist. Xiao Chen had grabbed him. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pulled, using Wang Can as a shield behind him. The attacks of the corpse race immediately struck Wang Can's body, causing him so much pain that he wanted to die. He kept shouting, "Stop fighting! Stop fighting!" When Xiao Chen saw Wei Hua blocking his way, he laughed loudly and tossed Wang Can over again. He said, "Brother Wei Hua, you are very skilled. Do you dare to receive another attack?" After suffering once, how could Wei Hua dare to receive another attack? He quickly dodged. Who knew, this time, Wang Can's body did not explode. Xiao Chen took advantage of this opportunity to dodge. With this, he managed to evade all the attacks. "Brother Wei Hua, we will meet again." Xiao Chen's loud laughter rang out, lingering for a long time. Wei Hua's expression turned extremely hostile. Despite so many people, not only had they failed to block Xiao Chen, but he had even killed 2 superior-grade martial sages. From the start to the end, Xiao Chen held the initiative. The 10-odd superior-grade martial sages that rushed over sighed. "Young master, what should we do now? Are we still going to Black Monarch Island?" someone asked in a soft voice. The 3 king-grade warships could not block the Dragon's Gate's warship at all. It had fled long ago. Xiao Chen had also fled without a trace. Their plans were all messed up. These people did not know what to do. Wei Hua thought for a while but still could not understand. How did Xiao Chen appear on Heavenly Wind Island for no reason? Where did he get the news? Wei Hua could not figure it out. Could it really be a coincidence? Go to Black Monarch Island. The plan is probably already exposed. There is no need to be secretive anymore. Send a message to Xia Feng and get him to coordinate with us from the inside. We can directly destroy Black Monarch Island. At that time, we will still be able to break through the 3rd line of defense, Wei Hua said with a sullen expression. Since it was already chaotic, then let it be completely chaotic. Even if they managed to save this group of people, the situation would still be in the corpse race's favor. The night sky was like a chessboard, filled with stars. Xiao Chen moved quickly. Soon, he caught up with Jin Lin and the others, who were piloting the Dragon's Gate's warship. On the deck, the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island were all badly shaken. When they thought about that scary scene earlier, they all felt that they would not be able to survive. Now that they were far away, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Senior brother Xiao Chen is back. When the Haotian sect juniors saw Xiao Chen descend, they all cried out in pleasant surprise. Bai Wuxue looked at the seemingly unharmed Xiao Chen with a complicated expression. Then he stepped forward and asked with a sullen expression, "Xiao Chen, how did you get the news that we led a group to launch a sneak attack on Heavenly Wind Island today?" When the people of Black Monarch Island heard what Bai Wuxue said, their gazes turned strange. Indeed, this was top-secret information. How did Xiao Chen get it? Shimin Bao shouted, "Xiao Chen, did you tell the corpse race about us? Otherwise, how could you have appeared so coincidentally?" When Jin Lin heard these people making false accusations, he immediately cursed, "You bunch of bastards. If not for senior brother Xiao Chen's benevolence, changing his mind before we left, you would have been killed long ago. Now, you are blaming senior brother Xiao Chen instead?" All the juniors of the Haotian sect were filled with righteous indignation. Based on their expressions, it looked like they wanted to throw the group off the warship. Chapter 883. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and waved his hand, stopping Jin Lin and the others. Then he looked straight at Bai Wuxue and said sullenly, "That's right. I do know about your plan to sneak attack Heavenly Wind Island. I also know that the corpse race laid an ambush on Heavenly Wind Island, waiting for you to take the bait." Bai Wuxue and Shimin Bao's faces sank, and a murderous intent immediately gathered in their eyes. "However, I was not the one who leaked your movements. It was Azure Monarch Island's island master, Xia Feng. The evidence is with Qin Wu. I do not have it, so there is no need for me to explain too much. As long as I have a clear conscience, it will be fine. Whether you believe me or not has nothing to do with me." Xiao Chen felt magnanimous in his heart, not feeling guilty at all. Originally, he had wanted to take the opportunity to go to Black Patterned Island and destroy the corpse refining pool. However, before he left, he thought about it. Bai Wuxue and Shimin Bao did indeed deserve to die because of their greed. However, the elite martial sages of Black Monarch Island following them did not deserve to die. If Xiao Chen built his military merits on the lives and deaths of these innocent people, it would be too unclean. As of now, he did not need to do this. Bai Wuxue and Shimin Bao exchanged glances. They saw confusion in each other's eyes, unable to figure out what was going on. However, the 2 vice island masters of Black Monarch Island turned pale with fright. They said, "Little friend Xiao Chen, are your words true? The person in charge of the 3 lines of defense of Dragon would star colluded with the enemy and became a spy. This is a shocking matter." "Naturally, it is true. Vice Island Master Qin Wu already made a copy of the evidence and sent it to Lord Huangpu Feng along with Xia Feng's plan. Soon, the truth will be revealed." Xiao Chen spoke the truth. At this moment, there was nothing to hide. You all should leave. Once you make a move, the entire Dragonwood Star will no longer be peaceful. If I am not wrong, Wei Hua should be leading the army of the corpse race to attack Azure Monarch Island. He wants to coordinate with Xia Feng from the inside. Bai Wuxue and the others were skeptical. Xiao Chen's words were simply too shocking. However, Xiao Chen had already asked them to leave. They could no longer remain here. After all, this Dragon's Gate's warship belonged to Xiao Chen. I, Bai Wuxue, will remember the favor of saving my life today. I, Bai Wuxue, will repay you sooner or later. However, the bet between us still stands. After Bai Wuxue said this somewhat unwillingly, his group left one after another, heading for Black Monarch Island. Pucci. As soon as these people left, Xiao Chen coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He immediately felt much better. Senior brother Xiao Chen, are you all right? Jean Lin and the rest hurriedly stepped forward and asked with concern. Bringing up the rear alone and carrying the entire corpse race army, no matter what, it would not be as easy as Xiao Chen looked. Xiao Chen closed his eyes to regulate his breathing. When he opened his eyes, he smiled and said, "It's just a small injury. It's nothing serious." As Xiao Chen charged out of the encirclement, he suffered a few blows. Even he could not remember how many of them he suffered. Given his rank 3 sage body and the fact that he had avoided getting hit in any vital spots, these could only be considered minor injuries. He would recover after regulating his breathing for a while. Seeing that Xiao Chen's complexion was not bad, Jean Lin and the others relaxed. They asked softly, "Where are we going now? Are we still going according to the original plan?" According to the original plan, Dragonwood Star would not fall into chaos. As long as Xiao Chen launched a sneak attack on the corpse refining pool, Wei Hua and the others would definitely return from Heavenly Wind Island. After all, they were not that far away. However, right now, the corpse race army was probably rushing to Black Monarch Island. At that time, whether they would receive news of the corpse refining pool or not would be a problem. Even if they received news, given the distance, they would not rush back. In any case, because of Xiao Chen's benevolence, the situation on Dragonwood Star fell into complete chaos, beyond repair. However, it did not matter. It would fall into chaos sooner or later. As long as Xiao Chen destroyed the corpse refining pool, the corpse race would return in defeat sooner or later. I'll lend you all the Dragon's Gate's warship to operate. Cancel the original plan. All of you will rush to Black Monarch Island's aid. This third line of defense is extremely important. We absolutely cannot break it. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen stated his decision. When Jean Lin heard that Xiao Chen had no intention of returning, he asked, "Senior brother Xiao Chen, what are you going to do?" Naturally, the original plan remained the same. I would still launch a sneak attack on the corpse refining pool. This was the best opportunity. Wei Hua would never expect that I would rush to Black Patterned Island right after I left the corpse race army. Xiao Chen smiled gently and patted Jean Lin's shoulder. He said, "Don't worry about me. Think about yourselves. My saber Dao has already reached a critical juncture. The greater the pressure, the more it will help me break through." The sky filled with starlight. A white figure leaped down from the bow of the warship. Before the gazes of the Haotian sect's junior generation disciples, Xiao Chen stepped on the motes of starlight and headed for Black Patterned Island. Trying to destroy the corpse refining pool alone? Senior brother Xiao Chen, your courage is truly unbelievable, Xiao Xian said ruefully as she watched the figure slowly leave. However, Jean Lin had a fiery gaze. He said enviously, "It would be great if I could have seen your brother Xiao Chen's courage and grace one day. He has absolute confidence and the air of a grandmaster. Our senior brother Xiao Chen is definitely not weaker than the peak geniuses of the various races in the starry heaven Silver Lake." Activating the cloak's concealing effect, Xiao Chen suppressed his murderous intent and headed for Black Patterned Island. The starlight opened the way for him, and the night provided cover for him. Xiao Chen's heart was calm and peaceful. He did not feel any nervousness or excitement from the impending battle. In the night, he silently set foot on Black Patterned Island. Relying on the concealing cloak, Xiao Chen brushed past the patrolling corpse race cultivators. No one discovered that an uninvited guest had arrived on this heavily guarded black-patterned island. The corpse refining pool was not hard to find. It was the place with the densest death chi on the island. Following the senses of his spiritual sense, Xiaochen floated on the ground and leaped over many figures. Without attracting anyone's attention, he arrived near the corpse refining pool. In midair, Xiaochen could see corpses piled up on the ground. Most of them were the corpses of various astral beasts. Occasionally, people would bring in the astral beasts they had just killed and leave after receiving their rewards. Many black-clad men busied themselves with the astral beasts' corpses. They skillfully cut open the astral beasts' stomachs and drained their blood. Then, they added all sorts of powders that Xiaochen did not recognize. Not far away were the corpses of human martial sages. It was clear that the cultivators who turned in the human corpses received much more rewards. The vicinity of the corpse refining pool was quiet and orderly. Seeing the other party turn the human corpses into demonic corpses, even someone as calm as Xiaochen felt startled. No wonder the people of the various races did not like to interact with the corpse race. Just the thought of a group of people making one unable to rest in peace after death made one tremble in fear. If not for the corpse race being strong enough, they would have been killed thousands of times already. Xiaochen's figure flashed, and he flew over. When he arrived above the corpse refining pool, he started to size it up. The corpse refining pool was rectangular, 500 meters long and 100 meters wide. Its surface was sinister, and black water surged. With just one glance, one would feel extremely uncomfortable, nauseous. There should be a formation under the pool. The formation lines were made of blood, and astral cores were embedded in the nodes of the formation. If one wanted to destroy this corpse refining pool, one had to break this formation and bury the entire place. However, not to mention the patrolling corpse race cultivators, there were 4 superior-grade martial sages sitting in the 4 corners of the corpse refining pool. That alone put Xiaochen in a difficult position. Each of the 4 old men had a demonic corpse shrouded in black aura beside them. Based on their auras, they should have been superior-grade martial sages. These were bona fide superior-grade sage-grade demonic corpses, no weaker than superior-grade martial sages. Suddenly, Xiaochen frowned. He had not expected those 2 to be here. It was the scholarly Long Fei and the physical body cultivator Kuei-do, whom Xiaochen had met once before. The 2 walked over in high spirits and stopped before the corpse refining pool. Then they looked at it with interest. This was somewhat difficult to deal with. Xiaochen's predictions were completely wrong. Not only was there Long Fei, but there was also the Iron Hand Sovereign's descendant, Kuei-do. Corpses floated up and down in the corpse refining pool. The corpse race martial sages in the 4 corners occasionally formed hand seals, activating the formation under the pool. Beams of dark light shot out from the pool. When the dark light landed, a demonic corpse took form. It walked stiffly to a coffin at the side, closed the coffin, and lay down inside. Immediately, the other corpse race cultivators stuck labels on the coffins, recording the strength of the demonic corpse before transporting it away. The many coffins at the back were truly dazzling. There were at least 1,000 of them, all of them monarch martial sages. There were also a few dark-colored coffins containing sage-grade demonic corpses, the true trump cards of the corpse race. Sage-grade demonic corpses already possessed some intelligence. Low-ranked sage-grade demonic corpses already possessed the strength of a martial sage. High-ranked sage-grade demonic corpses were as strong as superior-grade martial sages. As Kuei-do looked at the demonic corpses that occasionally leaped out of the corpse refining pool, he smiled and said, "With these nearly endless demonic corpses, it would be hard for the corpse race to lose on this dragonwood star." The scholarly Long Fei waved his folding fan and said seriously, "That is not entirely true. Only monarch-grade demonic corpses can be produced in batches. Sage-grade demonic corpses require more effort and time. Of course, if it is just a battle of this scale, as long as the corpse refining pool is not destroyed, the final victor will be our corpse race." Kuei-do smiled and nodded. Monarch-grade demonic corpses are nothing in the eyes of experts. However, in the end, they do not require any capital. If 100 monarch-grade demonic corpses can wear down an inferior-grade martial sage, that would be a profit. The two circled the corpse refining pool, chatting as they walked. The four corpse race old men occasionally chatted with them as well. When Xiao Chen saw all this, he entered deep thought. Right now, he had to face 4 older generation superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race, 4 superior-grade sage-grade demonic corpses, and 2 young demonic geniuses that far surpassed regular superior-grade martial sages. Based on the auras of the 4 corpse race older generation martial sages, they were not ordinary superior-grade martial sages. They were all old monsters that had lived for hundreds of years. Their cultivations were unfathomable. Even in a one-on-one fight, Xiao Chen was not confident of defeating them within 100 moves. If there was a superior-grade sage-grade demonic corpse, killing them would be even more problematic. Without at least 1,000 moves, it would be hard to determine the victor. Chapter 884. The most problematic ones were Long Fei and Kuei-do. These two were the descendants of sovereign martial emperors. Their talents were also extraordinarily high. Once Xiao Chen got tangled up with them, it would be hard for him to free himself. Difficult, very difficult. However, no matter how difficult it was, he had to break this corpse refining pool today. If he did not challenge the limits of life and death, his saber Dao would not be able to truly take form. Xiao Chen's thoughts raced. After a while, he thought of a countermeasure. He stretched out his hand, and a statue appeared in his palm. This statue was carved from a branch of the longevity tree. It looked very spiritual. The statue had black hair and white robes. Its features were like sabers, and its gaze was incredibly sharp. This was Xiao Chen himself. Xiao Chen flicked his finger, and the statue instantly took form. It burst forth with a strong aura and flew over the rows of coffins. Without saying anything, he punched. Countless strands of saber chi fluttered between heaven and earth like wings. With a single punch, hundreds of coffins were blasted to smithereens in an instant. Kuei-do looked around, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He exclaimed, "Xiao Chen!" Without even thinking, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with his feet and turned into a sharp arrow, chasing after the white figure with great speed. Long Fei closed his folding fan and pondered something. He said softly, "This Xiao Chen is really bold. He dares to barge in everywhere. Elders, I'll have to trouble you to guard this place. After I capture Xiao Chen, I'll refine him into a peak sage-grade demonic corpse. Young master, rest assured, with us guarding this corpse refining pool, not even a mosquito will be able to enter," the 4 said as they performed cupped fist salutes as they looked at Long Fei. While these 4 were distracted for 1,000th of an instant, the black-cloaked Xiao Chen silently entered the corpse refining pool. The 4 old men withdrew their gazes from Long Fei and stared at the corpse refining pool. Black chi surged on the surface of the pool, and corpses floated up and down like usual. Then, they continued to operate the formation under the pool, refining the corpses. The instant Xiao Chen entered the corpse refining pool, boundless death chi immediately poured into his body through his pores. The black aura of death was rampaging in his body, corroding his blood, bones, skin, and internal organs. Silently, it caused great harm to Xiao Chen. The amount of death chi was simply too great. Xiao Chen glanced at his palm. It had already withered beyond recognition and was covered in wrinkles. It was lifeless and lifeless, just like an old man past his prime. Xiao Chen had completely underestimated the death chi in this place. He quickly circulated the law energy in his body, and strands of purple energy and electric light spread throughout his body, turning the black death chi into nothingness. The situation finally took a slight turn for the better. However, this did not completely resolve the danger. There was simply too much death chi in the pool, and it seemed endless. After Xiao Chen chopped off half of the death chi, another 2 times more death chi appeared. There was simply no way for him to remain here. Damn it! I can't stay here any longer. Using the power of laws on such a large scale will definitely attract the attention of the 4 old men above. Just as Xiao Chen was at his wit's end and feeling anxious, a suction suddenly came from the death throne in his sea of consciousness, sucking away all the death qi in his body, instantly draining it clean. He looked like a gluttonous little brat, and he seemed a little dissatisfied. Xiao Chen could move his body freely, rejuvenating it. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. Unexpectedly, the death throne had such a wondrous use. He immediately relaxed. When Xiao Chen looked around in the pool, he saw corpses tumbling all around him. The scene looked very horrifying. The expressionless faces of the corpses sometimes looked like they were facing each other. Suddenly, a demonic hand stretched out from below, grabbing at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen quickly dodged. The demonic hand grabbed a corpse beside him and sank into the churning corpse refining pool. Above the corpse refining pool, the old man in the upper left corner revealed a suspicious expression. He said, "Strange, I was just about to grab a corpse and throw it into the corpse refining formation. In the end, he managed to dodge. Ha, this is not too strange. He probably still has breath and is not dead yet. Or perhaps this is the instinctive reaction of the corpse. After soaking in the corpse refining pool for a while, it will be fine," the old man in the upper left corner said. The death qi in the corpse refining pool is already so dense that it has turned into liquid. Who would be so blind as to jump in? The old man in the upper right corner laughed sinisterly. The old man who spoke first felt that it made sense, so he stopped talking and focused on refining the corpse in the formation. Xiao Chen, who was in the pool, did not know that he had dodged a calamity. At this moment, he had already sunk to the bottom of the corpse refining pool. His feet touched the ground. Before him was an extremely complicated formation drawn with startling blood. Four corpses sat cross-legged in the formation. Beams of scarlet light entered the bodies of the corpses. It looked like cultivators cultivating. The scene was extremely strange. There was a total of 99 nodes in the formation. A medial-grade astral core was embedded in each node, and a superior-grade astral core was embedded in the center of the formation. Together, they formed a round number of 100. The formation lines formed by blood were a startling red. They looked tender and alluring, filled with an evil aura. This formation should not be that easy to break. Xiao Chen did not dare to act rashly and alert the enemy. He stood at the side and observed for a long time. How should I break this formation? The condensed blood was deeply embedded in the ground, seeming to merge with it. Xiao Chen stomped on the ground. Due to the protection of the formation, the ground was as hard as iron, not budging at all. This formation clearly merged with the corpse refining pool. It was inseparable and unbreakable. If he relied on brute force, it might backfire. If he was not careful, he might even injure himself. I got it. With a thought, Xiao Chen thought of the death throne in his sea of consciousness. He smiled faintly and had an idea. Xiao Chen squatted down and stretched out his hand. When he touched the blood formation lines, a vast death energy immediately flowed into the formation. The entire formation lines started to give off an intense red light, looking very alluring. What's going on? Suddenly, a large amount of death energy came from the corpse refining formation. This is too horrifying. We have to stop this death energy. Otherwise, it will exceed the limits of the formation. The four old men at the four corners of the corpse refining pool stood up at the same time. When they saw the surging pool water, they exclaimed in horror. Tremors spread out, and cracks appeared at the edge of the corpse refining pool. The expressions of the four old men changed as they quickly soared into the air with the demonic corpses beside them. In the next moment, a loud rumble resounded, and the entire corpse refining pool exploded. The entire black-patterned island shook. Boundless death energy spread out in all directions. A deep pit appeared in the ground. The corpse refining pool turned into nothing, and the corpse refining formation ceased to exist. With Long Fei and Kueido's pursuit, the two finally caught up to Xiao Chen. Then, they punched him, turning him into wood shavings that filled the air. The two were stunned. Then, they said in unison, "We fell for it." The two quickly turned around and rushed back to the corpse refining pool. However, before they could get far, they heard an intense explosion. The entire corpse refining pool turned into nothingness. A black storm of death soared into the sky, forming a pillar of wind that reached the heavens. Black-patterned island shook violently as a series of loud rumbles resounded endlessly. Long Fei folded the folding fan in his hand, and the strong wind gathered, forming a destructive storm that surged out. This showed how intense the shock in his heart was. The corpse refining pool shattered? How can that be? Even a Grandmaster-level martial sage would not be able to break the corpse refining formation easily. Furthermore, there are no more Grandmaster-level martial sages on this Dragonwood star. Kueido's expression turned sullen as he looked in the direction of the corpse refining pool. He said, "If it really was Xiao Chen, it is not impossible. Every time this fellow does something, it seems impossible. However, he manages to do it." Xiao Chen? I don't believe that this person has 3 heads and 6 arms. Long Fei's figure flashed, and a destructive aura burst out of his body as he rushed towards the corpse refining pool. Kueido frowned slightly. When he felt this aura, he entered deep thought. The will of destruction. Long Fei actually comprehended such a will. He really hit it very deeply. Bushin Palace, where the main camp of Dragonwood Star was, Huangpu Feng suddenly opened his eyes and soared into the air. He looked in the direction of black-patterned island, at the black pillar of wind that reached the sky. His eyes filled with incredulity. The figures that flew out beside Huangpu Feng were also in disbelief. After a while, Huangpu Feng said, "The corpse refining pool is broken, and the foundation of the corpse race is destroyed. Mobilize the entire army and head for Black-Patterned Island to deal the final blow." "We will obey Milord's orders." Immediately, warships with the banner of Bushin Palace flew out from the main camp, carrying the human cultivators in a grandiose formation, looking very mighty. On the island that the Muddy Sky Gate occupied, the young master of the Muddy Sky Gate, Qi Wuxue, was gathering a group of people, preparing to head to the main camp of Dragonwood Star on Bushin Palace. When he saw this black pillar of wind, he was stunned. The corpse refining pool. How could someone break the corpse race's corpse refining pool? Without the corpse refining pool, how could the corpse race have any combat prowess? Qi Wuxue exclaimed in disbelief. Qi Wushue's face sank as he said sullenly, "Go to Black-Patterned Island. The location of the final battle has already changed. Whether we win or lose will depend on this final battle." At Azure Monarch Island, the Underworld Fire Sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua, who was leading the corpse race army and doing his best to break through the third line of defense, turned his head back to look. When he saw the black pillar of wind, his expression changed drastically. For some reason, Wei Hua could not receive any information from Xia Feng at all. Although he held the upper hand, the battle was much more arduous than he had imagined. Then, when Wei Hua saw the Peak Master holding the black pillar of wind, he panicked. He shouted, "Retreat! Return to Black-Patterned Island. We will fight another day." Immediately, the densely packed corpse race army retreated like the receding tide, rushing back to Black-Patterned Island. Seeing the corpse race army, which held the upper hand, retreat, the many human cultivators immediately relaxed. However, they were somewhat confused, not knowing what was going on. Only Qin Wu sighed as he looked at the black pillar of wind that lingered for a long time. This fellow really did it. He really broke the corpse refining pool. At the side, Bai Wuxue, Shimin Bao, Feng Xingxing, Hua Dao, and Niu Deng all nodded slightly. When they heard this, they were somewhat stunned. However, the younger generation disciples of the Haotian sect were wild with joy and excitement. Chapter 885. Senior brother Xiao Chen has already broken the corpse refining pool. The corpse race is finished. Let's give chase. Jean Lin laughed loudly and led the 20 inferior-grade martial sages of the Haotian sect to charge towards Black-Patterned Island. Qin Wu, who was already the highest commander of the third line of defense, smiled faintly and waved his hand for the entire army to attack. "Let's go." Xiao Chen's expression changed. At the bottom of Black-Patterned Island's corpse refining pool, Xiao Chen was in a sorry state. He had not expected the formation to break in such a manner. The energy that erupted out was so startling. The shockwave struck Xiao Chen first. The heavenly sea cloak on his body blasted into tatters. From the looks of it, he did not know if it could be repaired. Xiao Chen's internal organs churned endlessly. He tasted something sweet in his throat and vomited a mouthful of black blood. He was significantly injured. Xiao Chen somersaulted twice in the air and removed his tattered cloak. When he saw the 4 corpse race old men pressing down on him, he complained bitterly to himself. Although the corpse refining pool was broken, he might not be able to escape. However, without any pressure, Xiao Chen would not be able to form his saber Dao. Today, he would comprehend his Dao here. If he did not succeed, he would die trying. Sir, you are really courageous. Can you tell me why the death chi in the corpse refining pool did not turn you into a corpse on the spot? The 4 old men each led a superior grade sage grade demonic corpse as they surrounded Xiao Chen. They appeared calm and composed, not in a rush to attack Xiao Chen. The green-robed old man leading the group asked curiously. Starlight descended. This resplendent night sky was very beautiful. Xiao Chen smiled casually amid the starlight. His white robes fluttered as he stood upright with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, "This is this Zhao's secret. It is not convenient for me to tell others." Sorry. The green-robed old man smiled coldly and said, "Humph. You are rather calm. Later, I will have a way to make you say it." The 3 corpse race old men led the demonic corpses and each sent out a corpse race martial technique. Death chi surged and soared into the sky. Immediately, it covered the resplendent night sky, making it impossible to see anything beautiful. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, like a peerless treasured sword being unsheathed. A bright light shone from his body, instantly dispersing the black gas and restoring the clear night sky. Bang bang bang. Xiao Chen punched 6 times in a row. His figure flickered, and with every punch, a saber light flashed. Winds blew, howling endlessly. He forcefully received all the moves of the corpse race cultivators and demonic corpses. Space trembled endlessly. The 6 people's continuous attacks were actually unable to force Xiao Chen back. That unparalleled sharpness did not weaken in the slightest. The green-robed old man frowned and scolded, "Don't hold anything back. Beat him ruthlessly. I don't believe that we cannot break his sharpness." When the 3 old men heard the scolding, they no longer held anything back. Together with the demonic corpses, they unleashed their death chi into the sky. When they attacked, it was like a black storm roaring in the sky. Xiao Chen immediately felt the pressure increase. He brought out his will of thunder and 90% comprehended saber intent to their limits. However, he still could not gain the initiative. He could only passively receive the ferocious attacks. Blood leaked out of Xiao Chen's mouth, but the smile on his face did not diminish. The sharpness in his heart sharpened under the pressure. Every move was like the tip of a saber, ruthlessly stabbing into the other party's body. Even though they were evenly matched, they still felt intense pain. It was like a sharp knife pierced through their flesh from the inside out. Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, Lightning Tribulation Saber Technique, Four Seasons Saber Technique, Rushing Thunder Saber Technique, Will, Saber Intent, Kun Peng Fist, Dragon Subduing Slash. Under this immense pressure, Xiao Chen brought out everything that he had learned in his life to his heart's content. The injuries on Xiao Chen's body worsened. However, his thoughts became increasingly clear. His eyes lit up, looking like gems in the dark night. At some point in time, Long Fei and Kuei-do had arrived. They stood quietly beside the green-robed old man, watching the battle between Xiao Chen and the 3 old men in a daze. The green-robed old man felt somewhat embarrassed. 3 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race and 3 demonic corpses were dealing with an injured Xiao Chen. Clearly, they were suppressing Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen's sharpness did not weaken at all. Instead, the 3 corpse race cultivators became somewhat fearful, not daring to clash head-on with Xiao Chen. When they attacked, they clearly hesitated. Trash. The green-robed old man scolded to himself. His clothes fluttered as he prepared to make a move personally. Long Fei stretched out his hand and struck the green-robed old man's shoulder with his folding fan. He said, "Did you not see that all the starlight in the sky is landing on him? He is transforming from a cocoon into a butterfly. Why are you helping him? The green-robed old man was slightly stunned. When he looked up, he saw the vast night sky filled with resplendent stars. For some reason, all the starlight landed on Xiao Qin. It was like Xiao Qin had a boundless charm that could attract all the light to him. You truly live up to your reputation as the descendant of the Qing Emperor. Unexpectedly, you dare to use this certain death situation to comprehend your Tao. I, Long Fei, want to see how you will transform to be worthy of the starlight falling for you. The scholarly Long Fei's eyes flickered with a strong fighting spirit. He closed his folding fan and enunciated every word clearly. Long Fei's body seemed to give off a light as well, causing the starlight to fall in the dark night. This night was really beautiful, boundlessly resplendent with starlight falling. As the starlight filled the sky, the battle between Xiao Qin and the 3 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race and 3 demonic corpses intensified. Xiao Qin's white robes were stained with blood and in tatters. Death chi spread from his wounds, leaving behind mottled shadows. He looked like he would collapse at any moment. However, his eyes were as bright as gemstones. Motes of starlight encased his body. He gave off a sharpness that was sharper than the sharpest treasure saber, thousands of times sharper than the sharpest treasure saber. Xiao Qin stretched out his hand and pointed, and a sharp saber wind blew. A corpse race old man who clashed with Xiao Qin felt the electric energy surging into his body. It immediately cut into his flesh, causing unbearable pain. Xiao Qin did not want to fight any longer, so he quickly retreated and waited for the others to come. Xiao Qin vomited a mouthful of blood, feeling very carefree. My body is like a saber, my will is like a saber. I am the saber, and the saber is me. My sharpness never extinguished. My sharpness soared into the sky, breaking through the 3,000 great Tao and destroying the 800 unorthodox paths. My saber Tao, be it will or sharpness, in the end, it is still about sharpness and sharpness. What kind of saber could inspire fear from the bottom of one's heart, making one not dare to clash head-on with it? Only sharpness. Sharpness could cut through metal like mud and break metal like water. Naturally, it was unblockable, able to destroy everything. Xiao Qian's thoughts became increasingly clear. The starlight filling the sky nearly turned solid, turning into motes of fluorescent light as they descended. Xiao Qian's eyes became as resplendent as stars, as bright as a saber. No one dared to look directly at them. Xiao Qian pushed back a corpse race old man with one finger. For a moment, the other 2 old men were intimidated by this sharpness. They did not dare to clash with Xiao Qin, only sending their demonic corpses over. As the 3 old men looked at Xiao Qin, who looked like he was bathed in blood, they all had an idea. This Xiao Qin had been injured earlier. He had relied on a large amount of death chi to blow up the corpse refining formation, sustaining significant injuries. Now that Xiao Qin had been attacked repeatedly, although he looked spirited, his injuries worsened. He was clearly on the verge of death. The 3 old men wanted to finish off Xiao Qin quickly. However, when they clashed, that sharp electric light pierced into their bodies, bringing intense pain that penetrated their hearts and reached the depths of their souls. How could they dare to clash head-on? After all, Xiao Qin was someone who was about to die. There was no need for them to risk their lives and suffer. Hence, the 3 old men started thinking. They only sent their demonic corpses to attack Xiao Qin. This was not painful at all. When the green-clad old man saw this scene, he could not help but feel even more enraged. He roared a few times, but the 3 old men pretended not to hear him, continuing to do as they pleased. The 3 old men did not seek to defeat Xiao Qin with brute force or to break his sharpness. They just wanted to slowly grind him to death. When Xiao Qin saw the situation, he laughed loudly. His laughter contained boundless joy. The direction he was heading in was indeed correct. He was just short of inspiration, and his saber Tao would completely take shape. At some point in time, several warships gathered in the sky above black-patterned island. When Wei Hua, who was the first to arrive, saw the strange scene of starlight descending, he was stunned for a long time. Starlight descending, heavenly flowers falling, auspicious signs filling the sky. Normally, such mysterious phenomena would only appear on major characters or on people who could become major characters in the future. The night was as dark as ink. Stars dotted the sky. This was a very normal scene. However, if all the stars in the sky suddenly fell on one person for no reason, it would be a strange scene. Soon after were the pursuers led by Jin Lin. After that, Huangpu Feng from the Bushin Palace headquarters and the people led by the Muddy Sky Gate's young master arrived one by one. All the factions of Dragon Wood Star gathered here. Thousands of gazes focused on Xiao Chen, who looked like he was on the verge of collapse but was growing sharper and sharper. Starlight descending. Why is there starlight descending? What's going on? Xiao Chen is about to collapse. What's wrong with Lord Huangpu Feng? Why is Lord Huangpu Feng not stopping him? On the Dragon's Gate's warship, the juniors of the Haotian sect could not help but panic when they saw the bloodied Xiao Chen. When these juniors heard their seniors say that this was Xiao Chen's fortuitous encounter and that he had to endure it by himself, they continued to watch anxiously. When they saw Xiao Chen's current appearance, they found it very difficult to relax. If Xiao Chen comprehended everything before his body could no longer endure, he would die. From then on, the name Xiao Chen would no longer exist in this world. The scholarly, pale-faced Long Fei fanned himself gently. He said expressionlessly, "Don't waste this great opportunity. Trying to comprehend the Tao in the face of death, and if you end up comprehending yourself to death, do you really not understand the last point?" Kuei Do could tell that this was extraordinary. He said sullenly, "I think it is very mysterious. This fellow wants to take a path that no one has ever taken before, using his body as a saber and his thoughts as a saber. However, he cannot find a breakthrough point, a point that can truly ignite his cultivation." That was right. These two were talking about the difficulty that Xiao Chen currently faced. He had already figured out that his saber Tao lay in sharpness. However, the ultimate goal of the saber Tao was very vague. He needed a point to encompass everything. To put it simply, it was to give his saber Tao a name. To put it in more complicated terms, this name contained all sorts of meanings. Once it was established, it could not be changed. It would forever be engraved in the depths of one's heart, merging with the entire heavenly Tao. Chapter 886. When the three corpse race martial sages saw Xiao Chen's somewhat confused appearance, they could not help but rejoice. Originally, they thought that Xiao Chen would definitely die. However, after waiting for a while, Xiao Chen was still alive. They could not help but feel fear in their hearts. How could they not tell that Xiao Chen was trying to comprehend the Tao? Once he succeeded, his strength would soar, reaching a qualitative improvement. When that happened, it would be time for them to die. Seeing such an opportunity, the three corpse race martial sages steeled their hearts and decided to fight to the death, not giving Xiao Chen any more chances. Death Qi spread out and covered the sky again, blocking out the starlight. The green-robed old man smiled coldly and ignored Xiao Chen's obstruction. He took advantage of the situation to charge over as well. Immediately, an overwhelming killing formation was laid out to kill Xiao Chen. Long Fei withdrew his hand. For some reason, he allowed the green-robed old man to leave at the last moment. The surroundings fell silent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the somewhat confused Xiao Chen and that startling killing formation. If he still could not comprehend it at this moment, he would not have another chance. As the murderous intent surged, Xiao Chen's mind seemed to be stimulated. In a flash of inspiration, he suddenly uttered the word, "flawless." That was right, it was flawless. Xiao Chen's saber Tao was called flawless. No one in the world dared to say that their martial technique or cultivation technique was perfect and flawless. The heavenly Tao was benevolent. Everything in the world would leave a trace of hope. The heavenly Tao was emotionless. It would not tolerate something truly perfect and flawless remaining in the world. The moon waxed and waned. People would experience joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. Even the smoothest thing would have flaws when magnified thousands of times. However, today, Xiao Chen thought of the word flawless. Xiao Chen's saber Tao was unprecedented. There were no words that could describe it. If it was not flawless, what was it? A spiritual light flashed, and starlight filled the sky, illuminating the night sky and gathering on Xiao Chen's body. This was a scene that only major characters could display. All of Xiao Chen's injuries instantly healed. When Xiao Chen uttered the word, flawless, he suddenly broke through the bottleneck of inferior-grade martial sage and advanced to medial-grade martial sage. A strong wind blew, and the Black Death Qi did not scatter at all. Before the eyes of all the cultivators on Dragonwood Star, Xiao Chen obtained new life. Nirvana City Lord. A strong wind blew and blew away the Black Death Qi, not scattering it at all. Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly. Then he placed 2 fingers on his forehead and said softly, "If the bright moon is flawless, can starlight still shine?" Right after he spoke, a bright moon slowly rose up behind him. It was a perfect and flawless moon. Its brilliance was so resplendent that it caused the stars to retreat. Before the 4 corpse race martial sages rushing over could be shocked, they saw Xiao Chen extend his hand and point. In an instant, all the light from the bright moon in the sky gathered at Xiao Chen's fingertip. An unparalleled cold saber light flashed. The 4 corpse race martial sages and the 4 sage-grade demonic corpses could not resist at all as they were chopped in half. If the bright moon is flawless, the starlight will fade away. How could these 4 beams of light compete with the bright moon? The surroundings were silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Earlier, when they saw that Xiao Chen was about to be killed by that trap, they felt it was a pity and could not bear to make a sound. Now, they were shocked speechless by Xiao Chen's shocking strength after his nirvanic rebirth and his successful comprehension of the Tao. Unable to bear to, not daring to. These changes happened in an instant. Flawless bright moon, starlight fades away. When Xiao Chen formally comprehended the flawless saber Tao, he thought of the moon bright like fire that shocked him many years ago. After some slight changes, he discovered that this martial technique was very compatible with his flawless saber Tao. This was the first martial technique he created based on his flawless saber Tao. It seemed like he was the only one in the world who knew it. When Xiao Chen looked at the 8 new bright purple skulls on the military merit medallion at his waist, he felt very satisfied with the might of this move. The moonlight scattered, and the starlight slowly reappeared. That boundlessly resplendent night sky reappeared above everyone's heads. The starlight descends, the cocoon turns into a butterfly, nirvanic rebirth. The instant you comprehended it, you instantly killed 4 superior-grade martial sages. Xiao Chen, you really did not disappoint me. Long Fei stepped forward and closed his folding fan. As he walked in the air, he met Xiao Chen's gaze without any fear. Xiao Chen stood upright with his hands behind his back. As he looked at the elegant, scholarly Long Fei, he asked, "Do you regret giving me the chance earlier?" Long Fei moved his finger and opened his folding fan. Then he smiled calmly and said, "You were the one who fought for the opportunity. It has nothing to do with me. However, this starlight might not fall for you alone." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, the stars above him flickered. Starlight fell like snow, drifting down. Indistinctly, the sound of a zither and a flute rang out. When Xiao Chen got closer, he discovered that the white folding fan in Long Fei's hand was actually a bone fan. This white bone should be the skeleton of a certain Emperor Wu. After being polished layer by layer, it became as smooth as white jade. This was a truly strong bone weapon. As for the other party's falling starlight, it was different from Xiao Chen's. The gentle, snow-like starlight should be a mysterious phenomenon caused by some kind of cultivation technique and not a natural phenomenon caused by breaking through a bottleneck. Falling snow drifting song, zither and flute in concert. This is a mysterious phenomenon caused by the 9 heavens astral art's 8th layer. Unexpectedly, this Long Fei does not cultivate the White Bone Sovereign's cultivation technique, the White Bone Dermic art. Unexpectedly, he cultivates the famous ancient 9 heavens astral art. That's impossible. Based on his appearance, it is clear that he cultivates the White Bone Dermic art. Could it be that he cultivates 2 cultivation techniques at the same time? These are both peak heaven-ranked cultivation techniques. How can he deal with them? When the cultivators in the air saw the mysterious phenomenon of the zither and flute playing together, they were all astonished. Xiao Qin had not expected such a thing to happen. It looked like this Long Fei could not be underestimated. From the fact that Long Fei could treat his breakthrough so calmly, it was clear. Xiao Qin, now that you have broken the corpse refining pool, you have made a great contribution to the Bushin Palace. You will not be able to run away with 100,000 military merits. Do you dare to bet with me and make another contribution? The starlight drifted down like snowflakes, and the zither and flute were pleasing to the ears. Amid the atmosphere filled with hints, Xiao Qin felt an aura of destruction. A power that could draw out the starlight on its own initiative. How mighty would it be when used to injure the enemy? Others might not feel much about the zither and flute's music. However, with Xiao Qian's spiritual sense, he clearly felt that this sound had already spread for 500 kilometers, not scattering. If he gathered it into a line, it could pierce through the mountains with just a raise of his hand. Long Fei is not simple. However, Xiao Qin did not fear the other party earlier. Now that he comprehended the flawless saber Dao, he was even less afraid. He asked calmly, "What do you want to bet?" Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Now that the corpse refining pool is broken, my corpse race is out of options for this dragonwood star. Even if we do not want to retreat, we will have to. My corpse race still occupies 2 of your Bushin Palace's resource stars. That is what I want to bet with you. Let's fight. If I lose, I will return 1 resource star. If you lose, you will take the Bushin Palace and leave Dragonwood Star. Then, you will lose another resource star." What bold words! What a great bet! To think that Long Fei would use a resource star as a wager. This Long Fei was extraordinarily confident. Whispers rang out in the surroundings, all of them finding this incredulous. The strength that Xiao Qin displayed earlier was already terrifyingly strong. However, based on Long Fei's appearance, he was clearly very confident. Everyone could not help feeling suspicious. Where exactly did this confidence come from? "Xiao Qin, I will agree to this bet on your behalf. If you win, I will give you 500,000 military merits for 1 resource star." Before Xiao Qin could say anything, Dragonwood Star's Huangpu Feng spoke first, agreeing to this bet on Xiao Qian's behalf. Although the risk was high, he could take back a resource star in 1 battle. This was an opportunity that could not be missed. Given Xiao Qian's status as a sovereign martial emperor, he would not casually make promises. "Ha! You agree, but I don't." The underworld fire sovereign's descendant, Wei Hua, walked over in extreme dissatisfaction. He leaped off the corpse dragon warship and landed beside Long Fei. Then he said, "Brother Long Fei, you think too highly of this Xiao Qin. Furthermore, it is not as if we do not have the strength to fight for this Dragonwood Star. Don't you think so, young Master Muddy Sky, Qi Wuxue?" The various factions in the sky were roughly divided into 3 groups. Although the strength of the Muddy Sky Gate was much weaker than the other 2 factions, joining either side could change the balance. With Wei Hua's words, he clearly wanted to rope in the Muddy Sky Gate's faction to increase his own bargaining chips. The Muddy Sky Gate's young master, Qi Wuxue, stood at the bow of the warship. He did not answer Wei Hua's question directly. Instead, he smiled and said, 2 years ago, the name Xiao Qin resounded like thunder in the ears. Everyone in the primal chaos domain knew about him. Unexpectedly, we met in such a manner today. Brother Wei Hua, I am indebted to you for thinking so highly of me. Earlier, Qi Wuxue was indeed dissatisfied and wanted to fight for it. However now, Qi Wuxue changed the topic. Then, he said in a powerful voice, "What I want to see is whether the White Bone Sovereign's descendant, who can execute the mysterious phenomenon of falling snow drifting song and the zither and flute in concert, or the reborn descendant of the Qing Emperor, is stronger." The people of the primal chaos domain were not just evil loose cultivators. There were also some people who were both righteous and evil. They did not follow the rules when they did things, only acting according to their whims. For example, this Qi Wuxue had betrayed Wei Hua in front of so many people, putting the other party in an extremely awkward position. Wei Hua could not help cursing in his heart, cursing Qi Wuxue several times. To think that Qi Wuxue dared to undermine him in front of so many people. How was Wei Hua to continue with this? Steeling himself, Wei Hua snorted coldly and said, "Qi Wuxue, this old man finally recognizes you. In the future, we will be irreconcilable enemies." Seeing that Qi Wuxue did not care, Wei Hua looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Xiao Chen, Long Fei is not the only one who dares to bet with you. I, Wei Hua, dare to bet with you as well." Back then, the grudge between you and me in the Sage Mark Monument spread to the entire world. Today is a good time to settle old and new grudges. Do you dare to fight me head-on? I will bet a resource star with you as well. However, if I win, you will have to break off one of your arms. Unexpectedly, Qi Wushue's words roused Wei Hua's hot-bloodedness. Although this underworld fire sovereign ranked last among the corpse race sovereign martial emperors and even got injured by the Iron Hand sovereign back then, he was still a sovereign martial emperor. Chapter 887. However, Wei Hua was a descendant of a sovereign martial emperor, after all. His strength would definitely not be weak. If Xiao Chen won both bets on one resource star, he could reclaim both resource stars without a drop of blood. That would be a total of 1 million military merits. Xiao Chen thought for a while. Then he raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Wei Hua, I don't know if you really look down on me or pretending to look down on me. In any case, you are really nothing in my eyes. You will definitely lose this bet. Since you mentioned the grudges in the Sage Mark Monument, then, that's fine as well. In that case, let's settle this together. Kueido, come out as well. If the two of you can defeat me together, I will break off one of my arms. Even if I lose, you should hand over a resource star willingly." The moment Xiao Chen said that, the entire place erupted. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen wanted to challenge the descendants of two sovereign martial emperors at the same time. In this great age, there was no lack of young demonic geniuses capable of shocking things. However, the number of young demonic geniuses who dared to say such a thing could be counted on one's hand. In the past, Xiao Chen could not be considered much. At most, he could trick the corpse race and the ghost race. Then he used words to kick Di Wux's leg. However, if he could do what he said today, there would definitely be a place for him, Xiao Chen. In this age of geniuses, there would definitely be a place for him, Xiao Chen, to lead the times. However, no matter how Xiao Chen thought about it, this did not seem possible. It was more likely that he would suffer a crushing defeat, becoming the laughingstock of the world, a negative example of arrogance and conceit. "Xiao Chen, you are really bold. Since you want to die that much, I'll grant you your wish." Kueido's main purpose in coming to Dragonwood Star was to deal with Xiao Chen. Originally, when he saw Xiao Chen undergo a nirvanic rebirth, he thought that it would be hard to find another opportunity. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen jumped out on his own. Xiao Chen wanted to fight 1 against 2 to settle the grudges in the Sage Mark Monument. This suited him. Although Wei Hua did not like Kueido, he still felt that if the two worked together, their chances of victory would be much higher. Long Fei waved his folding fan gently, and his figure slowly floated away. The starlight slowly dissipated, and in the blink of an eye, he retreated 50 kilometers. After Kueido formally accepted the challenge, the various cultivators in the sky all became cautious. They all flew higher once again. These 3 were not ordinary young demonic geniuses. They were strong, far stronger than regular superior-grade martial sages. They also had great backgrounds. If they had not changed the location of this battle, they would not have been able to survive. Without a doubt, the entire black-patterned island would be shattered by the shockwaves. It was best to flee further away first. Xiao Chen, Kueido, and Wei Hua stood in a triangle in midair, not saying a word. Under the curtain of night, the entire black-patterned island was quiet. None of the 3 made the first move. They did not even release their auras. The Neptune headscarf on Xiao Chen's forehead emitted a chilly aura, which flowed around his body and calmed his heart. Kueido and Wei Hua looked calm and collected on the surface. However, their hearts were in turmoil. Their minds were filled with all sorts of countermeasures, as well as some conflicting thoughts. The two wanted to work together and make a move. However, they could not find any openings in Xiao Chen's defense, so they did not dare to rush forward. They could only wait anxiously. Xiao Chen grasped the thoughts of the two. He smiled gently and said, "I gave you a chance, but you did not make a move. In that case, you can forget about getting another chance." Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he left behind an afterimage where he stood. Then, he turned into a bright and flawless saber light. The crisp sound of a treasured saber being unsheathed was exceptionally clear in the silent night. This was the prelude to this duel. That saber light came from Xiao Chen's afterimage. Xiao Chen's true body was already faster than most people's eyes could see. No one could catch him. Kuei Do felt a slight chill on his head. Before that bright saber light formed, he already sensed that Xiao Chen was charging at him. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Kuei Do's body moved as well. The purest vital qi in his body surged out like a gushing river. When Kuei Do moved, his vital qi caused the surrounding air to tremble thousands of times. The tremors overlapped, sounding like a clap of thunder. However, although this sound was startlingly loud, it could not drown out the melodious saber hum. A bright saber light appeared before Kuei Do's eyes. He held his breath and focused, staring at the saber light. As long as Xiao Chen flew out, he would use half a dragon force to blast him apart. 2,500 tons of force could even crush a body infused with Thousand Mountains frost iron. What more a body of flesh and blood? Roar! However, to Kuei Do's surprise, what leaped out of that bright saber light was not Xiao Chen but a dragon, a soaring blue dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Its breath formed clouds, and azure scales covered its body. If this was not the legendary blue dragon, what was it? How can this be? Kuei Do cursed in his heart. He could not believe the scene before him. After all, he had fought in the starry heaven Silver Lake for 2 years. At this critical moment, Kuei Do did not lose his composure. He shouted a war cry and punched. In the end, Kuei Do still managed to bring out half a dragon force. One could even vaguely see the image of an ancient heaven dragon appear behind him when he punched. Bang! Kuei Do's punch landed on the other party's dragon claw. Space trembled, and an explosion instantly deafened everyone within 500 kilometers. The buildings on black-patterned island under Kuei Do's feet crumbled into rubble. Kuei Do's body flew back like a cannonball. He clearly felt that the force of this punch surpassed that of the blue dragon. However, he was the one who got knocked back. Long Fei, who was 50 kilometers away, gently tapped his folding fan and whispered, "Incredible!" He really materialized the momentum of Soaring Dragon to the flawless level. This momentum is the momentum of soaring. If Kuei Do wants to resist it, he either has to materialize a corresponding momentum or use force to break through it. Unfortunately, you want to break my Soaring Dragon with just half a dragon force? Kuei Do, you are too naive. Xiao Chen's cold voice rang out. Kuei Do looked at his bloodied right hand and then at the front. He felt incredulous. The blue dragon before his eyes actually flashed and turned into Xiao Chen's figure. Rumble. Just as Xiao Chen prepared to use half a dragon force and his flawless saber Dao to take down Kuei Do in one move, he suddenly heard the sound of surging waves. Xiao Chen turned his head and saw an overwhelming black wave surging at him. Wei Hua stood at the top of the wave and looked down at Xiao Chen. He said coldly, "Today, I'll show you what it means by there is always someone better out there." The underworld river's 9 waves. 9 similar overwhelming waves appeared around Xiao Chen. Wei Hua stood at the top of each wave. Together, they looked like a cage slowly shrinking. Xiao Chen, these waves are genuine underworld river water. They are thousands of times denser than the death qi in the corpse refining pool. As long as they surround you, no matter how powerful you are, you will not have a chance to execute them. You will turn into a dried corpse. The 9 Wei Huas opened their mouths at the same time, and cold laughter spread out in all directions. Do you think that I would take the initiative to challenge you, who underwent a nirvanic rebirth, if I did not have a trump card? You are too naive. If you had not been delayed by Kuei Do, you might have been able to escape at the start. Now, I will send out my 9 waves, forming the power of the prison-locking divine dragon. Even if you are a true dragon, you will have to lie down obediently today. What a great Wei Hua! To think that he used his trump card right off the bat. He did not have any intention of testing Xiao Chen at all. Everyone felt shocked in their hearts. However, it was fortunate that Wei Hua did not test Xiao Chen. Otherwise, if he really tried, he might end up like Kuei Do, defeated in one move. Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly, and his eyes filled with disdain. He said, "I thought that you really had some trump card that gave you so much confidence, daring to bet a resource star with me. It turns out that what you took out was just a half-finished martial technique filled with flaws. I'll show you how to break it with just a wave of my hand." The Kuan Peng spread its wings, covering the sky with its gaze. In ancient times, there was a divine bird known as the Kuan Peng. When it spread its wings and soared, it could travel 4,000 kilometers in one breath. When it stretched its arms, it could cover the entire sky. Now, Xiao Chen used his flawless saber dao to execute the Kuan Peng fist. Instantly, a perfect momentum formed and soared into the sky, clashing wildly with Wei Hua's power of the prison-locking divine dragon. The situation of a stalemate did not happen. As Xiao Chen shouted, he shattered the black wave in front of him with a punch. With the 9 waves gone, the power of the prison-locking divine dragon naturally broke without Xiao Chen attacking. Bang! 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 The remaining 8 waves scattered as well. Wei Hua stabilized his tottering body in the air. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips as he said, "How can it be like this?" The Underworld River 9 Waves is a martial technique that can protect one's life even before a Grandmaster-level martial sage. Under the night sky, Xiao Chen said calmly, "No matter how powerful a killing move is, if it is filled with flaws, how can it bring out its full might? I already said it before, I really do not care about the current you." Xiao Chen swept his gaze over the two, who had lost all fighting spirit and appeared disappointed. Xiao Chen felt somewhat disappointed in his heart. Before he comprehended the flawless saber dao, he still feared these two. However, they were now far from being a match for him. The victor of this battle was already decided. Wei Hua, Long Fei, is there still a need to continue fighting? Xiao Chen asked calmly as he stood upright with his hands behind his back and looked at the two. In just one exchange, Xiao Chen had beaten the two to the point that they lost all confidence. Their earlier bold words now looked like a joke. "You win." Wei Hua spat out through clenched teeth. Then he said sullenly, 3 days later, I will fulfill my promise and lead the people of my underworld fire hall away from the resource star that we occupied." Kuei Do endured the intense pain from his right hand and said, "Xiao Chen, the grudge between us will not end like this. When I attain a rank 4 sage body, I will definitely challenge you." No one had expected this startling battle, which everyone had expected, to end in just one exchange. It was hard to imagine how strong Xiao Chen was. In the air, Bai Wuxue, Feng Xingxing, and the others could not accept such a result. Chapter 888. This was too easy. In just one exchange, Xiao Chen obtained a resource star. With 500,000 military merits, he left everyone else in the dust. If Xiao Chen won another match, wouldn't he gain 1 million military merits? When everyone thought of this, their breathing quickened. 1 million military merits. That was enough to be conferred king. The Bushin Palace would carve out a large territory in the Tianwu domain for Xiao Chen to be conferred king. In the history of the Bushin Palace, there had never been someone who was conferred king at such a young age. Such an opportunity lay before Xiao Chen. Bai Wuxue appeared extremely depressed. Ever since Xiao Chen saved him at Heavenly Wind Island, he had been in a bad mood. In the battles that followed, he even appeared somewhat crazy. Now that Bai Wuxue saw Xiao Chen's strength after his nirvanic rebirth, he found the blow hard to accept. Everyone was astonished. None of the cultivators of the 3 factions fighting in the sky had expected that Xiao Chen would be as he said when he fought Wei Hua and Kuei Do. He did not care about them at all. Only Long Fei was an exception. The snowy starlight and the zither and flute played together. The scholarly, pale-faced white-bone sovereign's descendant, Long Fei, slowly floated over. It seemed like Long Fei crossed the distance of 50 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Then, he arrived 1 kilometer away from Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun looked up and felt cautious. This was not his first time meeting Wei Hua. Xiaoqun knew Wei Hua's strength very well. However, he had only heard of Long Fei's name and had never seen him in person. Xiaoqun could not underestimate him. This Long congratulates Brother Xiao in advance. You managed to take down a resource star without spilling any blood. You are fully deserving of your 500,000 military merits. Xiaoqun gently fanned himself with the folding fan in his hand. The snowflake-like starlight danced around him, looking very beautiful under the night sky. However, who knew how many people could feel that destructive aura from it? Xiaoqun's heart was as clear as a mirror. The cool breeze did not move him, and his white robes did not flutter. Xiaoqun asked indifferently, "Young Master Long, do you still want to bet?" "Naturally, I want to bet. I cannot let the world laugh at my corpse race for being useless, relying only on demonic corpses." Long Fei smiled faintly. Then his tone suddenly changed, turning cold. He folded his folding fan and pointed it forward. "Brother Xiao, be careful. I'm making my move." The falling snow drifting song, the zither and the flute played together. When Xiaoqun pointed his folding fan, the music of the zither and flute spread for 500 kilometers without scattering. Suddenly, it turned into a finger sound wave. The music of the zither and flute immediately became 1,000 times louder in the night, pressing towards Xiaoqun. Indeed, he had guessed correctly. The sounds of the zither and the flute could really be combined together. The light of the stars in the sky would probably not be a problem. The sound wave came without warning. Moreover, it wasn't an attack of ordinary quintessential essence or the power of laws. Ordinary defenses were easily penetrated by the sound wave. Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun prepared. Already he had Qin and Qin, and he circulated Qin. Strands of formless energy gathered above Xiaoqun's head, forming a roaring dragon head. Dragon might spread out, and the body behind it was hidden in the clouds. Xiaoqun opened his mouth and roared. The ferocious dragon head opened its mouth and roared as well. Immediately, the dragon voice formed a spiraling storm surging out. When it collided with the sound of the zither and the flute, only specks of light could be seen, and the sound wave was instantly dispersed. The loud and ear-piercing sound disappeared, replaced by the pleasant sound of the zither and the flute. Together with the wind, they created a beautiful melody. Each dot of light was a musical note. Don't. After a round of probing, the two of them pushed off the air at the same time and shot towards each other. Everywhere they passed, they kicked up a strong wind, knocking down the specks of light floating in the air, forming a melody that sounded like a tempest. This stirred the heart and made one's blood surge. This was the most impassioned music. The instant the two brushed past each other, their eyes met. Their hands did not stop moving. In a breath of time, they had exchanged 100 moves. Xiaoqun switched between fists, palms, and claws. However, the sharpness remained the same, always as sharp and unblockable as a saber. The saber winds they created flew out, dancing up and down. The white-faced scholar, Long Fei, used the white folding fan in his hand. Starlight bloomed in the air like flowers. When the petals exploded, a destructive energy surged out and clashed intensely with the sharp saber winds. After one breath of time, the two brushed past each other. Their speed was startling. Several people could not even react in time. They were shocked to discover that Xiaoqun and Long Fei had switched positions. Qi Wuxue stood at the bow of the warship. The scene of the two brushing past each other and exchanging moves appeared in his mind. He clicked his tongue and sighed, "These two fellows are indeed demonic geniuses." A regular superior-grade martial sage would have died at least 100 times over in that instant. However, Bai Wuxue and the other outstanding talents of the human race opened their eyes wide, not wanting to miss out on a single scene. At this moment, their emotions were very complicated. From the perspective of the human race, they naturally hoped for Xiaoqun to win. However, from the perspective of those of the same generation, there were already many peak demonic geniuses. Now that there was another one, it would be even harder for them to survive in the future. Only Jean Lin's group on the Dragon's Gate's warship showed excited and joyful expressions. They found it somewhat strenuous to watch and could not easily capture the scene of Xiao Chen and Long Fei's exchange. However, they did not have any intention of shifting their gazes. Amid the stormy tune of Ambush from 10 Sides, Xiao Chen executed his flawless saber Dao, executing everything he had learned and comprehended, exchanging another 1,000 moves with the white-faced scholar, Long Fei. The flowers contained starlight that could destroy everything. The saber winds were formless but sharp enough to cut through frost iron. After 1,000 moves, black patterned island below had already crumbled, disappearing without a trace in the surging seawater. However, the two were still evenly matched. Neither side showed any signs of being at a disadvantage. Long Fei narrowed his eyes. He did not want to drag this out any longer. He quickly closed his folding fan and pointed it at the sky. The two famed ominous stars in the distant starry heavens, the Ketu and Rahu, suddenly released a dazzling red light. Ketu Rahu chop. Immediately, 2 blood swords descended from the sky. As Long Fei pointed, they ruthlessly chopped at Xiao Chen. Ketu Rahu chop. Long Fei actually learned this move. Did I see wrong? Ketu and Rahu, these 2 stars, were rumored to be demonic stars and ominous stars during the ancient era. They were inauspicious omens. During the ancient era, a powerhouse invented this Ketu Rahu chop. If the 2 blood swords do not see blood, they will never disappear. Several of the older cultivators in the crowd could make out the name of this move. They were all startled. The Ketu Rahu chop was a famous evil move from the ancient era. If it did not see blood, it would not return. However, once it saw blood, even if it was just a small wound, it would suck the cultivator it struck dry. After executing this move, Long Fei's fair face flushed somewhat. Clearly, something was wrong with his complexion. Cracks appeared in the bone fan in Long Fei's hand before it shattered and turned to dust. When Long Fei saw this, his heart ached. Every time he executed this Ketu Rahu chop, not only did it exhaust his blood chi, but it also required the sacrifice of a king-grade secret treasure. The price was extremely high. However, once he executed it, the number of people who could survive within the same cultivation realm could be counted on one hand. When Xiao Chen saw the 2 blood swords, he felt an extreme sense of danger. Before he could think, the blood swords had already arrived before him. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, brushing past them. However, before Xiao Chen could catch his breath, the blood swords turned around and charged at Xiao Chen again. Xiao Chen executed the Thunder Dragon steps to its limits. Riding on 2 lightning dragons, Xiao Chen danced in the air, moving so fast that one could not even see his shadow. In one breath, Xiao Chen changed directions more than 100 times. However, he still could not dodge the 2 blood swords. When Wei Hua saw this scene, he could not help but laugh. He said softly, "What a great Long Fei! To think that he hid so deeply that even I did not know." The Ketu Rahu chop is silent. Unexpectedly, it is 100 times more ruthless than me. The various cultivators could not help but frown. The Ketu Rahu chop was infamous. To think that someone actually managed to practice this evil move. Now, Xiao Chen was in big trouble. Kasi. Xiao Chen dropped a few secret treasures and the life bestowal spells clones, trying to block the blood swords. However, the blood swords chopped through the secret treasures and clones, showing no signs of stopping. Do not turn back until blood is shed. Die when blood is shed. Long Fei rubbed his temples, and his flushed face recovered somewhat. As he looked at Xiao Chen, who was helpless despite all his schemes, a faint smile appeared on his face. Metamorphosis from a cocoon to a butterfly, undergoing a nirvanic rebirth. This was the best opportunity to defeat Xiao Chen. Otherwise, when Xiao Chen slowly perfected his flawless Dao, his chances of defeating Xiao Chen in the future would diminish. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen ran into Long Fei. If not for Long Fei, he might have become an unprecedented sovereign martial emperor who could rival the Qing emperor. Unfortunately, There were no ifs in this world. It was time to end this. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked at the two ominous stars in the starry heavens. Then, he turned his head back to avoid the blood swords rushing over. Now, he understood something. Heaven and earth were heartless, but they could not bear to do so. Nothing was absolute. There was always a chance of survival. The Ketu Rahu chop would not turn back until blood was shed. Die when blood was shed. This was a result that could not be avoided. Everything had its own reason for existence. There had to be a reason why the two blood swords could chase after him. If Xiao Chen guessed right, the reason was outside the starry heavens on the Ketu Rahu star. Under the starlight, there was nowhere to hide. As long as the light of the Ketu Rahu star continued shining, he would never be able to dodge. After thinking this, Xiao Chen came up with a countermeasure. If night was no longer, the starlight would disappear. Just as the two blood swords were about to charge over again, Xiao Chen spun around, and a light flashed on his forehead. A purple talisman soared into the sky. Burn, immortal will of thunder. A strand of flame shot out from Xiao Chen's fingertip and landed on the talisman. Pu Si. The purple talisman burned, illuminating the surroundings. The higher it rose, the brighter the light became. The vast magic energy in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness burned continuously, providing this purple lightning talisman with an endless supply of energy. When the fireball tore through the sky instantly lit up. It was a wondrous feeling. One could see the night recede like the receding tide in one's hand. The blurry silhouette on the other side gradually appeared in front of you as the curtain of night faded away. Chapter 889. The blazing sun shone brightly, and Xiao Chen stood below it. When the light illuminated the entire dragonwood star, the uneasy feeling in his heart immediately vanished. It's morning already? Using his own will to light up the sky, this Xiao Chen really has deep heavenly sage laws. I understand now. Xiao Chen is trying to flip day and night, suppressing the power of the starlight to its weakest point. In the end, the Ketu chop uses the nine heavens astral art as its foundation. It would be hard not to be affected. However, this light practically illuminated the entire dragonwood star. The drain is too great. Is Xiao Chen not afraid of dying from exhaustion? The blazing sun was piercing to the eyes. Several people were not used to the change from night to day. They squinted slightly, shocked by Xiao Chen's generosity. With a raise of his hand, Xiao Chen flipped day and night. How many people could have such boldness, daring to use their own will to light up a star? He gently waved his sleeves, and the two blood swords flying at him were swept aside. Then, they flew around chaotically in the air. In a moment of carelessness, an unlucky corpse race cultivator got struck by the blood swords. Before this corpse race cultivator could even cry out miserably, he was sucked dry, leaving only his skin behind. This sight was horrifying. This Ketu chop was too vicious. The mysterious phenomenon of the falling snow drifting song and the zither and flute playing together weakened and turned blurry under the illumination of the sunlight. The starlight disappeared, and the zither and flute's music sounded like mournful music, lingering in the air. The scholar Long Fei's expression changed slightly. He had not expected Xiao Chen to use such a tyrannical method to suppress his nine heavens astral art and resolve the situation of the Ketu chop. How arrogant! Do you really think that you can flip day and night, covering the sky with a flip of your hand? The nine brilliance star venerates have boundless divine strength. Respect my will and break the sky with a flick of my finger. Long Fei shouted ferociously and formed hand seals. The starlight behind him gathered into 9 crystalline star venerates. These 9 brilliant star venerates represented the Ketu star, the Wuji star, the flame star, the greenwood star, the heavenly water star, the void earth star, the storm star, and the snowdrift star. Every one of them was born at the same time as the Kunlun realm. They were comparable to the sun, the moon, and the other famous stars. There were many martial techniques and cultivation techniques that could draw on the power of the stars. These 9 stars were the object of worship. The 9 heavenly astral art was one of the best. It was the cornerstone secret of the Myriad Star Gate, an ancient sovereign martial sect. Long Fei wanted to use the power of these 9-star venerates deity statues to instantly break Xiao Chen's sky-covering move. Star Xiao and Chen in Chen in. Chen in Chen would be the sky. Long and bright, and would Chen would in with day. He would in with day. And. The sun is merciless. The bright moon is flawless. The sun and the moon shine together. Long Fei, do you really dare to compete with the sun and the moon with your starlight? Xiao Chen shouted at Long Fei as he took a step forward in the air. When Xiao Chen stepped forward, the sea below churned continuously. It seemed like it could not withstand Xiao Chen's rage. The sun and the moon appearing together. Unexpectedly, there is such a miraculous scene. This Xiao Chen is too horrifying. Before the radiance of the sun and the moon, Long Fei's 9 astral stars art is indeed like a grain of rice. How unfortunate. To think that Xiao Chen managed to reverse the night and make the sun and moon appear at the same time, suppressing such a powerful cultivation technique. The sun is yang, and the moon is yin. Xiao Chen being able to perfectly combine the light of the sun and the moon might have something to do with his newly comprehended flawless saber Dao. Flawless, flawless, flawless. This sun and moon shining together is truly flawless. Long Fei, you probably don't have a chance anymore. When Xiao Chen raised his hand, day and night reversed. Then he waved his hand again, and the sun and moon shone together. These 2 moves of Xiao Chen's were truly shocking. No one had ever heard of someone using a martial technique like this before. When Long Fei was questioned by Xiao Chen, he immediately felt like the entire world was pushing him aside, mocking him for overestimating himself. He was just a grain of rice, and yet he dared to compete with the sun and the moon. This was not an illusion but a genuine suppression of power. Right now, Xiao Chen could materialize the sun and the moon. With a flip of his hand, he could control day and night, completely grasping the power of dragon with stars' heavenly Tao. If Xiao Chen did not allow the light of the stars to appear, the world would naturally push Long Fei aside. If Xiao Chen shouted that the other party dared to compete with the sun and the moon, the world would naturally mock Long Fei. Long Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiao Chen had forced the 9 astral stars art to the point where it could no longer circulate. This was the first time someone had used such a tyrannical method to scatter the 9 astral stars art. Good. Xiao Chen, I have repeatedly raised my estimate of your strength. However, I discovered that I still underestimated you. Long Fei wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. His fair skin no longer had any trace of blood. Suddenly, a beam of white light shot out from his forehead, and a 2-meter-long trident appeared in his hand. The instant the white light appeared, a destructive aura spread out. Kasi. White bones appeared around Long Fei's body one after another: sternum, ribs, calf bones, wrists, and arms. Under the silk-like light, the bones quickly stitched together, forming a massive set of white bone armor that protected Long Fei. A pale white flame burned in the white bones' eye sockets. The massive set of white bones seemed to be alive. The lower jaw of the skull-like head was open, looking very sinister. White bone dermic aspect. Xiao Chen exclaimed softly when he saw the skeleton completely stitched together. He had heard of this white bone dermic aspect before. It was said that it was a cultivation technique created by the corpse race's white bone monarch, the white bone technique. When cultivated to the 10th layer, it would form an avatar. This was not a simple avatar, but a complete life. If the main body died, the avatar would not be destroyed and could still be resurrected. Furthermore, the dermic aspect's battle prowess was not low. It had all sorts of wondrous uses. For example, when it attached itself to Long Fei, his defense, attack, speed, and aura would all increase by 2 or 3 times. While the others were exclaiming about the white bone dermic incarnation, Xiao Chen fixed his gaze on the trident in Long Fei's hand, which contained a boundless state of destruction. For some reason, this trident gave him a very familiar feeling. Long Fei held the trident with one hand and casually waved it. The white bone dermic aspect also made a corresponding move. Immediately, a small dragon-like black aura began to revolve in the trajectory of the trident. Xiaoqin, if you think that you can sit back and relax after breaking my 9 heavenly astral art, then you are gravely mistaken. After all, Long Fei am the white bone sovereign's descendant. This white bone dermic aspect is my true trump card. Xiaoqin formed hand seals and retracted them. The blazing sun in the sky descended and turned into a purple talisman floating quietly above his head. Night fell once again. Only the bright moon did not set, shining brightly like fire. That's exactly what I wanted. If you only have this much ability, you are not fit to be the whetstone for my flawless saber Dao. Make your move. This Xiao will keep you company at any time. Xiao Chen's white clear wind robes fluttered, and his long hair fluttered, revealing the light blue Neptune headscarf. His delicate facial features gave off a sharp light that radiated from every angle of his body. Long Fei took a step forward. It was only a short step, but the huge white bone dermic aspect could already attack Xiaoqin. The trident thrust out gently, heading for Xiaoqin's forehead. Dang! Xiaoqin did not move back. He pointed with his right hand, and a cold saber light flickered. The tip of his finger was a saber light condensed from sparks. When it clashed with the trident, it gave off a melodious clang. The chi of ruin on the trident seemed to be able to destroy everything. It wanted to destroy that electric light with brute force. The white bone dermic aspect opened its mouth and let out a dull roar as it pressed down. Xiaoqin smiled faintly. He had the immortal will of thunder. It was called immortal. Naturally, he would not let you destroy it so easily, even if it was your will of ruin. The purple talisman above his head descended, and a beam of light encased Xiaoqin. Then he took another step forward. Instead of retreating, he advanced and pushed hard. Unexpectedly, Long Fei and the huge white bone dermic aspect were pushed into the air by Xiaoqin's finger. I finally understand how you obtained this trident of yours. You actually refined the annihilation throne into a bone weapon. When Xiaoqin's finger came into contact with the trident, the red and black thrones in his sea of consciousness immediately spun excitedly, nearly leaping out. How could Xiaoqin not understand? At this moment, Long Fei's expression completely changed. He was somewhat astonished as he exclaimed, "Throne! You have a throne on you as well. I want this bone weapon forged from the ruined throne." Xiaoqin smiled, and a grave expression appeared in his eyes. Even if he had to use his magic skills as a trump card, he had to obtain this ruined throne. Long Fei's expression recovered. He smiled coldly and said, "You are really arrogant. You have not even drawn your saber yet, and you still want to take my ruined trident. You'd better let me take your throne." Dark underworld bone flame. The white bone dermic aspect opened its mouth and spat out a black flame at Xiaoqin. Amidst the flames, there was a strong chill. Wherever it passed, the dust in the air would be frozen into ice flowers. Xiaoqin could not dodge in time. His hand came in contact with it. The cold qi immediately penetrated his skin and permeated his blood. Then, it surged forward and sealed Xiaoqin's entire left arm in ice. What a tyrannical flame! By the time Xiaoqin reacted and used his law energy to block this flame, his right arm was already covered in frost. Many ice flowers bloomed, absorbing the life force in Xiaoqin's right arm. Long Fei laughed loudly and said, "This dark underworld bone flame is ranked 6th among the inattributed flames. I obtained it after a narrow escape from death in the 9 layers of hell. Xiaoqin, this arm of yours is completely crippled." Right after Long Fei said that, he swung the trident through the air. The huge white bone dermic aspect raised the trident image and did the same thing as Long Fei, chopping down at Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin's momentum was heavy. The trident created a strong, destructive wind that blew to both sides, forming a rapidly spinning storm. Space seemed like it would tear at any moment as a destructive aura surged out. Xiaoqin tapped his left shoulder with his right hand, and the lunar true flame's origin flame in his left eye flowed out from his fingertip. When it touched the ice flowers, they shattered. The lunar true flame absorbed the strand of dark underworld bone flame in his right arm. Xiao Chen's lunar true flame was formed by using a strand of lunar true flame that did not contain any origin flame to devour other inattributed flames. Chapter 890. It was far from the true lunar true flame of the world. However, after consuming the extreme Yin flame and the netherworld flame, its origin flame was already the size of a soybean. No matter what, it would have some might. Furthermore, it was ranked much higher than the netherworld bone flame. Naturally, it was not difficult for it to easily absorb a strand of the netherworld bone flame. You have quite a few good things on you. Coincidentally, my lunar true flame needs to advance. Watch as I take out your netherworld bone flame's origin flame later. Xiao Chen moved his arms freely. He smiled faintly and clenched his right hand into a fist. Then he punched at the incoming trident. He used the myriad heaven divine fist deities' descending secret technique, gathering veritable essence energy, magic energy, and vital chi, erupting with tenfold combat prowess. Bang! The white bone dermic incarnation with a ferocious aura was knocked back. It spun in the air and fell towards the sea. Didn't you want to see my saber? I'll show you what my saber is now. With a cold snort, Xiao Chen executed Thunder Dragon steps and chased after the falling Long Fei at an even faster speed. A bright light burst forth from Xiao Chen's body. Instantly, the sharpest saber in the world, flawless, came out of its scabbard. Using my palm as a saber, my feet as a saber, my wrist as a saber, my hair as a saber, my body as a saber, I am the saber, and the saber is me. This saber was called flawless. This Tao was perfect and flawless. In an instant, Xiao Chen closed in on Long Fei and formally executed his flawless saber Tao. Sharp fist lights filled with saber edges. Unparalleled leg shadows filled with saber edges. 3,000 strands of hair fell like a waterfall filled with saber edges. What Long Fei saw, what his ears heard, and what his body felt, he felt like thousands upon thousands of sabers were attacking him relentlessly. All sorts of tricky sabers flew at him, making him unable to imagine the trajectory of these sabers. That place was a sea of sabers, a world of sabers. Saber domain. Such a scene made several of the old men in the surrounding sky exclaim involuntarily. Aside from the boundless sabers, only Long Fei's white bone dermic incarnation remained, doing its best to fight with the sabers. Saber domain, the domain of the saber. Once it is executed, it is filled with the sharpness of a saber, able to break through all techniques. After being trapped, no matter how powerful the enemy is, after suffering the pain of 1,000 cuts, they will die. A genius bladesman like Feng Xingxing nearly lost his cool and cried out, "Saber domain." That was a domain that only the legendary ancient saber monarchs could execute. It required exceptional talent for the saber to comprehend. Currently, there were not many famous saber emperors. There were almost none who could use a saber domain. However, there were a few experts who could use a sword domain. Could it really be a saber domain? After a while, the grave Feng Xingxing heaved a sigh of relief. He said, "Fortunately, it is not a saber domain. It is just my body as a saber, turning everything I touch into a saber. It is very similar to the legendary saber domain, but there is an essential difference." However, Bai Wuxue sighed and said, "Feng Xingxing, it is too early for you to relax. This is not a saber domain, but it clearly has the vague form of a saber domain. Given this fellow's talent, he will definitely be able to comprehend it. In the future, if you see him execute a saber domain, don't be shocked." Feng Xingxing appeared distracted for a while. Then, he could not help smiling bitterly. It looks like I am deceiving myself and others. I am not as thorough as Brother Bai. You are probably going to lose your bet with Xiao Chen." Bai Wuxue had a complicated expression. However, he also heaved a sigh of relief. He said, "There will always be a time to settle all grudges and grudges. If I lose this time, I will be able to let go of the obsession in my heart. This might not be a bad thing for me. There are many people stronger than me in this world. The sons of the three holy masters are stronger than me, and Juanxi is stronger than me, and those newly born geniuses of the ancient races are stronger than me. Why should I take it to heart that Xiao Qin is stronger than me? He is just putting on a show and refusing to admit defeat. Brother Feng, do me a favor. Feng Xingxing said with a strange expression, please speak. A jade strip flew towards Feng Xingxing. Bai Wuxue stretched out his hand and caught it. He said, this contains the snow race inheritance that Xiao Qin wants. Will you please help me pass it on? Feng Xingxing grasped the jade strip and said, the match is not over yet. Brother Bai, why are you leaving before you finish looking? I am already 30 years old. I became famous at a young age. Along the way, I have been fighting. It is not that I have seen too little. Rather, I have seen too much. However, I still cannot see through it. I am going into closed-door cultivation. If I cannot see through it, I will not come out. I will just pretend that I do not have a name in this world. Whatever bloody age of geniuses has nothing to do with me, Bai Wuxue. Snowflakes drifted down and landed on the surface of the sea, forming a path of ice and snow. Bai Wuxue walked on the waves. It was as Bai Wuxue said. Even after a long time, Feng Xingxing did not hear any news of him. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the shocking battle between Xiao Qin and Long Fei. No one paid attention to Bai Wuxue, who walked on the waves in the wind and snow. Long Fei, who was surrounded by boundless saber lights, did not appear. He did not collapse as everyone expected. Instead, the white bone dermic incarnation materialized 1,000 arms and sent out a destructive aura, not willing to admit defeat. When Xiao Qin made a bet with Xiao Qin, whoever gave out first would be the loser. My 1,000 Hands white bone dermic incarnation originates from a mysterious Buddhist sect secret technique. The white bone dermic incarnation is the predecessor of the 10,000 Hands Buddha. My energy is boundless. You are using your body as a saber, materializing the flawless saber Dao. You are going to be disappointed if you want to grind me to death. At this moment, Long Fei's dermic incarnation looked very dignified. He ignored the bloody wounds on his body as he brandished his 1,000 arms, clashing wildly with Xiao Qin, who had already turned into boundless saber lights. The shockwaves of the two's battle on the surface of the sea grew increasingly wider. The seawater surged, and unrecoverable gorges appeared in the vast and boundless sea. It was like the ground had split open, an incredible sight. Once Long Fei's 1,000 Hands white bone dermic incarnation unfolded, it immediately knocked back Xiao Qin's advantage, resulting in a stalemate. The battle continued. However, time seemed to freeze forever. That bright moon illuminated the sky. Its light did not scatter. How could night leave? As the bright moon did not scatter, the spectators could not help but have a vague sense of time. They did not know how long the two had been fighting already. Was it one night, one day, or even more days and nights? Xiao Qin had already forgotten the initial purpose of this battle. He only felt extremely carefree. His mind was filled with information and inspiration about the flawless saber Dao. Suddenly, he remembered the 4-season saber technique that he once cultivated. The 4-season saber technique grew without end, cycling without end. If he executed it with his flawless saber Dao, he could definitely grind down this 1,000 Hands white bone dermic incarnation with boundless energy. Once Xiao Qin thought of it, he immediately executed it. Using the boundless state of the flawless saber Dao, he executed the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter at the same time. Immediately, 4 different scenes appeared on the 4 sides of the 1,000 Hands white bone dermic incarnation. One side was like a spring breeze with peach blossoms blooming. One side was like a blazing sun burning the land. One side was like a gentle autumn wind, causing leaves to fall from the branches. One side was covered in pure white snow, freezing the land for 500 kilometers around. Each side was a saber. Compared to the countless sabers earlier, there were only 4 sabers now. The sabers were named Spring, Summer, Autumn, and Winter. Flawless 4 seasons, cycle endlessly. Good. Xiao Qin said, good, 3 times in his heart. He was the one who created this four-season saber technique in the first place. Flawless Four Seasons was compatible with the flawless saber Dao. Unexpectedly, it went unexpectedly smoothly, allowing him to execute it perfectly. Long Fei's expression slowly turned frustrated. He discovered that the Four Seasons continued endlessly, vaguely resonating with the supreme cycle of the Great Tao. Unexpectedly, it showed no intention of stopping. Damn it! Thousand Hands' white bone dermic incarnation. Explode! Seeing that he was slowly being suppressed, Long Fei roared ferociously. The dermic incarnation of the Thousand Hands' white bone dermic incarnation swelled continuously. Then, without giving Xiaochen any time to react, it exploded. Unexpectedly, Long Fei chose to explode his dermic incarnation. This was a decisive technique that dealt 1,000 damage to the enemy and 800 damage to oneself. Bang! The Thousand Hands' white bone dermic incarnation exploded, and the aura of destruction immediately reached its peak. In an instant, the peach blossoms fell, the blazing sun was extinguished, the autumn wind blew, and the white snow melted. The flawless Four Seasons was destroyed just like that. Wounds covered Long Fei's body. Blood flowed from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, making him look extremely horrifying. He no longer had the elegance of a scholar. Long Fei looked at Xiaochen, who was also in a sorry state, his physical body cracked. Then, he laughed loudly and said, "My white bone dermic incarnation only needs to recuperate for a month before the Thousand Hands Buddha statue, and it will recover. From the very start, I was undefeatable. Even if I do not have much vital qi now, you are like a dried-up lamp. You cannot do anything to me." In the end, this match ends in a draw. Xiaochen wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. However, he discovered that he could not wipe it all off. His heart and lungs were torn apart. Without recuperating, he would not be able to recover temporarily. The self-detonation of the white bone dermic incarnation was horrifying in the first place. Furthermore, the will of destruction from the trident reached its peak. Xiaochen took the brunt of it and was indeed significantly injured. Unexpectedly, Long Fei still had such a ruthless move. However, this Long Fei was too naive to think of a draw. Xiaochen smiled and said, "Look up at the sky. Do you not notice anything wrong?" Long Fei's expression changed. When he looked up, he saw the bright moon in the sky, perfect and flawless. It was even more beautiful than any of the bright moons he had seen before. That's not right. Although I did not pay attention to the fight with him, at the very least, one night has passed. Why is the sky not bright yet? Do you find it strange that the sky is not bright yet? Let this bright moon, which has been preparing for you for a long time, tell you. With a flip of my hand, I can make the night disappear. With a flip of my hand, I can make the sun not rise. Xiaochen pointed, and boundless moonlight gathered at Xiaochen's fingertip, forming a flawless blade that shot out. Long Fei wanted to dodge but found that there was nowhere to hide. Flawless bright moon. This world is filled with moonlight. Where can you hide? Kasu. Long Fei was instantly chopped in half. His life force started to fade quickly. Xiaochen opened his hand and grabbed the trident in the other party's hand. It had been too long. Looking at the dissipating bright moon, some people could not react. They thought that Xiaochen had absorbed all the moonlight from the real bright moon and scattered it. Unexpectedly, they felt pity for it. However, when the bright moon disappeared, they looked up and saw that there was actually another bright moon in the sky. Everyone's vision blurred, thinking that they were in a dream. After a while, they understood that this was the real bright moon. The battle between Xiaochen and Long Fei lasted from night to dawn, and then to night again. Chapter 891. This battle was like a dream. If not for the White Bone Sovereign's descendant, Long Fei, with his body split in half, some people might have thought that it was a dream. Xiaochen dragged his weak body and took advantage of the moment when Long Fei's life force was fading to infuse his spiritual sense into the trident. He erased Long Fei's spiritual mark and carved his own spiritual mark deeply into it. A feeling of fatigue appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. The bright moon hung high in the sky, storing up a lot of energy. However, the magic energy in his sea of consciousness was nearly depleted. Xiao Chen endured the dizziness and discomfort as he quickly imprinted his spiritual mark into the trident. As Long Fei's spiritual mark roared in dissatisfaction, the imprint finally succeeded. Without saying anything more, Xiao Chen withdrew the trident into his sea of consciousness. Then he turned around and retreated, going as far as he could. Most genius cultivators with a large sect behind them would have a martial emperor's will clone inserted into them. Although there was only one chance, Xiao Chen could not be sure whether Long Fei had used it or not. Long Fei's life force was already very weak after being split in half. However, he was a martial sage and cultivated some secret techniques. His brain was not destroyed, so he was not completely dead. If a sovereign martial emperor arrived, it was entirely possible to save Xiao Chen. Kasi. Right after Xiao Chen retreated, a bone spike pierced through the afterimage he left behind. However, the afterimage did not scatter. When one looked carefully, this bone spike, which did not reveal much of its sharpness, actually pinned Xiao Chen's afterimage to space. It truly pierced through space. You run really fast. I would be too embarrassed to make a move against a junior like you a second time. Take care. A figure of light came out from Long Fei's forehead. Its appearance was indistinguishable, but one could hear a suppressive voice. The moment the voice rang out, all the cultivators present, including Xiao Chen, could not endure that pressure. They all bent over and prostrated themselves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Water splashed everywhere. Several cultivators whose cultivations were too low could not endure the pressure and fell into the sea. White Bone King of the Corpse God Palace. This is a will clone of his. It is too strong, too strong. This is a sovereign martial emperor, inexplicably strong. I cannot resist him at all. If he wanted to kill me, he would not even need to lift a finger. The White Bone King's will avatar stretched out a clump of bloody light and slowly connected the two halves of Long Fei's corpse. Sovereign martial emperors already cultivated an undying body. Their understanding of the secrets of the physical body had already reached an inconceivable level. It was not strange for such a wondrous scene to come from a sovereign martial emperor. However, even if a sovereign martial emperor made a move and saved his life, Long Fei would need at least half a year to recover. Of course, although he didn't gain as much comprehension as Xiao Chen, he still benefited a lot from this battle. After half a year of cultivation, he would probably make great progress. The scarlet light turned into a cocoon, and the White Bone Sovereign's will clone carried Long Fei, who was in the scarlet cocoon. Then, it turned into a beam of light and flew into the universe, ignoring this matter. Huang Pu Feng heaved a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Goodbye, White Bone King." The factions of the Bushin Palace also sent off the White Bone Sovereign respectfully in unison. No matter what, the White Bone Sovereign still had the air of a senior. He did not vent his anger on the others because of Long Fei's miserable state. In that case, there would not be any changes to the bet between Xiao Chen, Long Fei, and Wei Hua. Clearly, these major characters did not intend to participate in these small fights. Furthermore, while the juniors of the corpse race and the human race were fighting to the death, the upper echelons of the two sides might be chatting happily, discussing how to go on experiential training in the starry heavens or exchanging their comprehensions on cultivation. The 5 major races of the Kunlun realm had an explosive number of people, more than 10 billion. Although it was hard to become an Emperor Wu, there would be a few Emperor Wu in less than 200 years. Furthermore, Emperor Wu could live for at least 2,000 years. As of now, there were many Emperor Wu in the Kunlun realm. The truly rare ones were sovereign martial emperors. As of now, there were no more than 20 known sovereign martial emperors. At such a level, it would be hard for them to have any deep grudges or hatred. Most things could be resolved through discussion. Wei Hua showed a sullen expression as he waved his hand hatefully. The corpse race will keep its promise. 3 days from now, we will leave the 2 resource stars that we occupied. Let's go. Wei Hua led the corpse race cultivators and a large group of demonic corpses away in a somewhat sorry state. On this trip to Dragonwood Star, they had suffered a double loss. Not only did they not achieve their goal of plundering, but they also lost 2 resource stars that they occupied. This was a heavy loss. The Muddy Sky Gate was here to fish in troubled waters in the first place. Given the current situation, there were no benefits to reap or a good show to watch. Then, Qi Wuxue looked at the people of Bushin Palace, who all had malicious gazes. He chuckled. Naturally, he would not remain here for long. Xiaochen, I, Qi Wuxue, admire you greatly. You truly live up to your reputation as a descendant of the Qing Emperor. When you have time in the future, come to the Primal Chaos Domain's Muddy Sky Gate as a guest. I, Qi Wuxue, will definitely host a banquet and put on a grand show. After saying that, Qi Wuxue led the group of Muddy Sky Gate cultivators away on the King-grade warship. If they did not leave now, the people of Bushin Palace might get angry and send them flying. If that happened, they would not be able to leave even if they wanted to. 3 days later, Bushin Palace successfully took over 2 resource stars. The news of Xiao Chen's 2 consecutive victories, defeating the Iron Hand Sovereign, the Underworld Fire Sovereign, and the White Bone Sovereign, reached the upper echelon of Bushin Palace. According to the agreement, Xiao Chen had obtained 1 million military merits. Furthermore, he had found out the spies and killed some corpse race martial sages and various demonic corpses. His total military merits reached more than 1.5 million. However, Xiao Chen did not attend the distribution of military merits at the headquarters. Firstly, he was recuperating, so it was not convenient for him to go. Secondly, Huangpu Feng would not be able to reward Xiao Chen with this amount of military merits. No matter how much Huangpu Feng gave him, it would not be worth 1.5 million military merits. However, after the distribution, Huangpu Feng met with Xiao Chen alone and symbolically gave him 1 million astral coins, some black patterned gold, heavenly windgrass, and other specialties of Dragonwood Star. At the same time, he also gave Xiao Chen a piece of news. 3 months from now, Bushin Palace will hold a king conferral ceremony at the headquarters of the Haotian Star. At that time, they will carve out a province in the Tianwu domain as your territory. Of course, there will be other rewards as well. After Xiao Chen heard that, a smile appeared on his pale face. Xiao Chen did not care about the other benefits. As long as he could get a province, he would have profited greatly. In the future, when he established the Dragon's Gate, he would not have to worry about a place to build his foundation. However, Xiao Chen did not know which province they would carve out for him. He hoped that it would not be an overly desolate land. There were several desolate and uninhabited places in the Tianwu domain. Firstly, there were no resources. Secondly, there were no people. He would have to start from scratch. That would be too tiring. However, this did not matter. What Xiao Chen cared about was land. Although the Kunlun realm was vast, there were plenty of desolate lands. However, if you really wanted to find a place without an owner, it would be almost impossible. Even an abandoned place would have a nominal owner. These people were not people to offend. If Xiao Chen was not careful, he might end up in big trouble. This Xiao would like to ask Lord Huangpu a question. Can you tell me who the current palace master of my Bushin Palace is? The Bushin Palace was made up of the various large sects of the Tianwu domain. Among them, the 3 holy masters held absolute leadership. However, Xiao Chen had heard that the palace master was not one of the 3 holy masters. Huangpu Feng smiled and said, "The palace master has not made an official appearance for several thousand years already. You juniors might not know this, but that is normal. Right now, the palace master of the Bushin Palace is a powerful sovereign martial emperor of the same generation as the Qing Emperor, the Thunder and Lightning Palace's Thunder King. So it is him. That makes sense. With such a person as the strongest human expert to keep the 3 holy masters in check, it would be best for him to be the palace master of the Bushin Palace. The Thunder King was from the same generation as the Qing Emperor. Now, he was close to 10,000 years old. His strength was unfathomable. It was because of him that the human race could barely withstand the immense pressure from the deity race. Since he was from the same generation as the Qing Emperor, Xiao Chen wondered if this Thunder King had any friendship with the Qing Emperor. If he did, he should be able to attend this king conferral ceremony without worrying too much. He would not have to fear the three holy masters too much. When Xiao Chen had time, he would see if he could get some information from the Haotian martial emperor. After Huangpu Feng left, a light flashed on Xiao Chen's forehead, and a trident appeared in his hand. He revealed a smile in his eyes. For the time being, the greatest benefit of this trip was the trident of destruction. Unexpectedly, the ruined throne could be refined into something else. This broadened Xiao Chen's train of thought. Could the massacre throne and the death throne be refined into weapons as well? Clearly, if they were refined into weapons, the thrones would be able to bring out greater might. It was a very simple example. When fighting with others, would you be able to bring out the power of a throne or a weapon? The answer was obvious. A weapon was a lethal weapon, and a throne was a precious weapon. If one wanted to bring out the will within it and bring out greater might, it would be more practical to refine it into a weapon. Furthermore, the shape of the throne was just the surface. It did not affect the state it represented. After thinking about this, Xiao Chen already had an answer in his heart. It would be better to refine the throne into a weapon. However, Xiao Chen had sworn that if he could not resurrect Ao Jiao, he would not use another saber. Furthermore, now that Xiao Chen was using his body as a saber, he did not need a physical saber. He was the saber. It would be better to refine the throne into another weapon. Xiao Chen did not think about this for now. He put away the ruined trident and took out a jade strip with a flip of his hand. The contents of the jade strip were the snow race's inheritance that Xiao Chen was interested in. The snow race could be considered a strong ancient race. They had uncanny control over the power of ice and snow. Xiao Chen had heard that several ancient races had powerful geniuses recently. He wondered if the snow race had such geniuses as well. Xiao Chen sent his spiritual sense into the jade strip and closed his eyes. Then, he started to carefully comprehend the information in it. The information in the jade strip was as vast as the sea. It talked about the origins of ice and snow, how to control ice and snow, and how to grasp ice and snow. Xiao Chen cultivated the will of thunder. He could not waste time cultivating the will of ice and snow again. The information in the jade strip could only be used as a reference. However, the winter saber in the flawless four seasons touched on the ice Dao. Xiao Chen could use the knowledge in the jade strip to complete his winter saber. Chapter 892. When Xiao Chen opened his eyes, he looked at the time in the room. He had spent 2 days on this comprehension. With a thought, snowflakes drifted around Xiao Chen. The cold qi in the room plummeted as if winter had arrived. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand, and light flickered. The snow became a saber, and a cold wind blew. Xiao Chen took a deep breath, and a bright light appeared in his eyes. All the snowflakes suddenly surrounded him and started spinning. It was like thousands of people practicing the saber in the snow. Saber lights flashed, cold winds blew, and snow flew everywhere. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, revealing a satisfied expression. This winter snow saber was finally complete. Using the state of ice and snow as a saber, these snowflakes filling the air were my saber. Xiao Chen stood up and stretched out his hand to catch a snowflake. Then, he placed it under his nose and gently sniffed it. His entire body felt cool. Xiao Chen caught the snowflake with 2 fingers and casually waved it. All the snowflakes in the room moved with him, forming an ice flower drifting about. When Xiao Chen scattered his law energy and stopped circulating the 4-season saber technique, the cold in the room disappeared. Only the ice flower remained, remaining eternally. As Xiao Chen paced around the room, he continued thinking. The flawless saber Dao, using the body as a saber and the thoughts as a saber, now had a general direction. However, the true moves were only flawless bright moon and flawless 4 seasons. Furthermore, they were adapted from the moves of the past. Xiao Chen had to comprehend a few more moves. However, this was a flash of inspiration. He could not force it. There are still 3 more moves for the myriad heaven divine fist. I have to find time to finish practicing them. As for the dragon subduing slash, there are still 10 more moves. I have to find time to completely refine them and merge them into my flawless saber Dao. Just as Xiao Chen was thinking this, the door suddenly opened. Xiao Xian, Jin Lin, and Lu Ke walked in. The instant the door opened, the crystalline ice flower drifted down towards the three. Xiao Xian's eyes lit up, and she stretched out her hand to catch the ice flower. Hee, senior brother, your flower? Xiao Xian walked over and handed over the flower. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and waved his hand. I'll give it to you. It contains some of my comprehensions of the winter saber. At a critical moment, it might be able to save your life. When Xiao Xian heard that, she was overjoyed. She quickly expressed her thanks and carefully put the flowers into her universe ring. In the Battle of Dragonwood Star, under Xiao Chen's guidance, the three gained a lot of military merits. This was especially so for Jin Lin. As he said, he killed 10 superior-grade martial sages of the corpse race, 100 inferior-grade martial sages, and more than 1,000 monarch-grade demonic corpses. Xiao Chen's 100,000 military merits was no worse than Feng Xingxing's. Senior brother, how are your injuries? Now that there are no more battles on Dragonwood Planet, we have to hurry back to the Haotian sect, Jin Lin said. This time, Xiao Chen was severely injured. The white bone incarnation contained the will of destruction and was too close to him. If not for his rank 3 sage body, his internal organs would have ruptured, and he would have died. Let's go. If we do not make a move for half a month, we should be fine. If we run into any astral beasts along the way, we will have to rely on you, Xiao Chen said jokingly with a relaxed expression. Jin Lin patted his chest and said, Don't worry. Leave it to me, Jin Lin. Senior brother, rest assured and recuperate. When Xiao Chen left, he saw that the Haotian sect's juniors had already been waiting for a long time. When he saw this group of juniors who had gained something new, he felt deeply moved. Greetings, senior brother. When the group of juniors saw Xiao Chen come out, they immediately stood up and greeted him respectfully. Now, not only was Xiao Chen strong, but his demeanor had also won over this group of juniors, gaining their sincere worship. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and spat, and the Dragon's Gate's warship flew out. Everyone quickly leaped onto it. Standing at the bow, Xiao Chen raised his hand, and 18 sails rose up. Jets shot out from the stern, and the Dragon's Gate's warship flew into the starry heavens in its proudest manner. Xiao Chen felt some emotions in his heart. 10,000 years ago, the Dragon's Gate was not destroyed. He wondered if the Qing Emperor was like him today. Xiao Chen led the Dragon's Gate's disciples on the Dragon's Gate's warship. He led a group of proud people and his own glory to roam the universe. As the Dragon's Gate's warship went far away, 2 discordant golden figures appeared in the starry heavens. Based on their auras, they were actually the blue-robed emperors, far surpassing Xiao Chen's cultivation. He was conferred king for 1 million astral beasts, consecutively defeating the descendants of 3 sovereign martial emperors. The Divine Sun's worries were right. This fellow is truly a strong rival of the Divine Sun. After not appearing for 2 years, he became famous the moment he appeared. This fellow is really too high profile. Now that the chaos in the starry heaven Silver Lake is over, his fame from this battle will probably be no less than the Divine Sun's. However, it will not be easy to kill him. The Divine Sun probably wants the 2 of us to make a move because he wants to be cannon fodder. Back then, how could the Qing Emperor not have left any backup plans? If we could really kill him, there would be no need for us to make a move. Someone would have already lost their patience. It does not matter. Since the Divine Sun erected a life deity statue for the 2 of us, in the future, when the Divine Sun ascends to the God King position, he will naturally condense a deity throne for us. Of the 3,000 deities, the 2 of us will definitely have a place. Let's make our move. Be fast and we might succeed. The Dragon's Gate's warship moved quickly through the starry heavens. Xiao Chen stood at the bow, admiring the strange scenery of the universe. Occasionally, he controlled the advanced ancient demonic energy cannons hidden in the dragon mouths to blast the asteroids in the way into pieces. Just at this moment, the eternally dark starry heavens suddenly became as bright as day, dazzling everyone's eyes. The light vanished in a flash, and the starry heavens turned pitch black once more. The junior generation disciples at the bow were all startled. However, there had always been countless strange sights in the universe. It was not strange for them to encounter such a thing. Seeing that nothing had happened after a while, they all relaxed and went back to their own business. Xiao Chen appeared calm as he looked at the sky. However, he felt somewhat shocked in his heart. What passed earlier was clearly a powerful bolt of electric light, several times stronger than the immortal lightning that the Thunder King left behind. Which senior expert just made a trip there? To think that he could easily light up the starry heavens of the universe. At the same time, in the palace where Di Wuk resided in the deity race nation of the Kunlun realm, the two god statues suddenly cracked, directly breaking into nothingness. The obsession and life energy hidden in the god statues completely vanished. Inside the palace, Tian Yushi, who was writing on a golden book, sighed gently on his gorgeous face. He said, "You should have guessed this ending long ago." The two quasi-gods died, and their life deity statues were destroyed as well. They did not even have a chance to revive. Have you thought of how to explain this to the deity sovereign? Di Wuk revealed a smile on his handsome face. He said, "I did not end up empty-handed. I finally know who is protecting him. I'll explain things to the deity sovereign. Give this person an invitation to the Heroes Convention as well." The Dragon's Gate's warship safely arrived at the Haotian Star after traveling for half a month without any surprises or danger. The Haotian sect disciples of Dragonwood Star were in the limelight. The news of Xiao Chen defeating 3 sovereign martial emperors in a row had already reached the Haotian sect. On the ground, the first elder, Han Qinghe, led a group of inner sect elders out to welcome the Dragon's Gate's warship. When the warship landed, Xiao Chen led 20 juniors down. Then he performed a cupped fist salute to the first elder and said, Xiao Chen did not fail in his mission. He did not embarrass the Haotian sect or the Haotian sect disciples. The group of elders all smiled happily. The matter of Dragonwood Star had already spread far and wide. Xiao Chen had allowed the Haotian sect to gain some face. Han Qinghe smiled and said, Jin Lin, bring your junior brothers and sisters and follow the elders to discuss the merits and rewards. The pavilion masters of the Refining Medicine Pavilion and the Equipment Forging Pavilion are all present. If you have any requests, just state them. The 20 juniors all revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. This was the first time someone casually raised a request. After saying a few words of consolation, Han Qinghe led Xiao Chen away alone to the inner hall of the main sect. However, he did not enter. A person sat in the inner hall. It was actually the Haotian emperor. Beside him was the vice sect master that Xiao Chen had met once before, a super expert with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor. Xiao Chen was stunned. He had not expected that Han Qinghe would bring him to meet these two major characters. This was completely unexpected. Xiao Chen greets the sect master and the vice sect master. Xiao Chen bowed and performed a cupped fist salute, greeting these two true major characters of the Haotian sect. The Haotian emperor sized up Xiao Chen and felt very satisfied. He smiled warmly and said, "What a great air of a grandmaster. 2 years of thinking, bitter cultivation, and silent comprehension. It looks like you have undergone a complete transformation." Sect master overpraises me. Compared to the 2 senior sect masters, Xiao Chen's current accomplishments are nothing. If ordinary people praised him, he would be able to accept it without batting an eyelid. However, the Haotian emperor was rumored to be a major character not far from sovereign martial emperor. How could he accept the other party's praise? The vice sect master Aogu said, "This time, you made the Haotian sect famous. Your accomplishments in the starry heaven Silver Lake are even higher than those of your first senior sister, Shui Lingling. The sect master and I have to express our gratitude. If you have anything in particular that you want, you can mention it now." Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. There were many things that he wanted. However, what he urgently needed were some spirit herbs and spirit flowers for the later layers of the firmament body tempering art. Xiao Chen's current physical body had already surpassed the requirements for cultivating the firmament body tempering art. Unfortunately, The latter 5 layers of the firmament body tempering art required different spirit herbs for the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, the heart, liver, kidney, and stomach. These spirit herbs were not considered rare treasures. However, they were things that could only be found and not sought. Xiao Chen had searched for them a few times but had not succeeded, making him feel very depressed. Many thanks to the 2 seniors for your kind intentions. Xiao Chen is indeed in urgent need of some things: heart-nourishing grass, bright yellow ganoderma, daylily grass, heavenly learning vine, and gilded fruit. The vice sect master Ao Gu muttered to himself for a while before saying, "These are spirit herbs for the 5 viscera. They are not too precious. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to find them. However, it is not difficult for us. Just wait for my news. I will get someone to deliver them to you in less than 5 days." Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. Given this, the firmament body tempering art's consummation was just around the corner. If Xiao Chen succeeded in cultivating the final 5 layers, it would be very difficult for his internal organs to be injured. He would not have to fear something like the white bone incarnation exploding again. The Haotian emperor smiled and said, "After this, we will discuss the matter of you being conferred king. At that time, the Bushan Palace will bestow you with a province. If you need the Haotian sect's help, you can ask at any time." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.